Great Monday morning, everybody. Welcome back to your midday hang. It's Annie and Elsten here with you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Craig Elsten and Braden Suprenant in our Odyssey studios. Annie's on her way. She's got kind of a split day with us here today. Is going to miss the second half of the program for the most part. Here for the first half for the most part. In fact, as we speak, she enters with like a floral burst walking in. Annie Halbrin. So just about to join us here. 4 hours of live local San Diego sports talk for you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Working our way towards 2 o'clock when Gwen and Chris join you. It is an all-talk show day. Padres are off today. They are in Seattle. Hopefully looking for their mojo for a 2-game Vetter Cup series against the Mariners Tuesday and Wednesday. So that means Matt Scraby will be along with the Scraby Chronicles from 6 to 7 today as well. And it's great to be all here with you today on a Victory Monday. It's so good to be here on a Victory Monday. Victory Monday, yes! Roar, Lions, roar. The victory. I don't know the words yet, but Lions roar.
I still can't find a good version of that. I did hear it last night, though.
Overtime.
Did you have the belief in them that they were going to pull it out?
I did.
Did you, as a newly formed fan?
As a newly formed
you're
fan.
Like, this is going to be my team. This is what my team's going to be made of.
In our highly active text chat, I said when other teams lost, who we'll talk about shortly.
It's nice to be part of a winning team.
Yeah.
A champion team.
So I said, hey, well, the Lions are winning. And then they stopped winning, and Braden's like, well, that didn't last. And I go, they've still got time. And then they gave the ball away, and he's like, well, that didn't last. I'm like, it's still got time. And they did it. They did it. They got done in overtime. Overpowered the Rams, honestly, at the end of the game. Just pushed them right down the field. David Montgomery, just with a phalanx in front of him, just
taking it down. Yeah.
It was impressive.
They leaned on him. He got it done. It was. You know what? To have that set the tone for your season, pretty much a clutch win, of course, there in overtime. So
it was nice.
It was good.
Hey, I spent the entire game. No, that's not true. I spent the entire fourth quarter going, wait, should we have backed the Rams? Rams were in the last 8 or something. Like, boy, this is a pretty clutch performance by these guys. You know, of course, Pico Nakua went down, but like all of a sudden, cups just open everywhere, over and over again. I'm like, it wouldn't be so bad to root for Cooper Kupp. Like, this seems like a good team, but no. You've brought me back over the line, Lions. Okay, the bit's over. Look, I was thinking about this a lot, actually, that like the bit of picking a team is a lot of fun, and then the bit of actually following the team is slightly less fun. Hopefully the Lions are good, but we are not going to spend our show belaboring a team that you don't necessarily root for.
Do you think they all went to Applebee's after?
Ooh.
I think Dan Campbell had to do a shift, so it makes sense.
Yeah, Dan's like, come on down, guys. Half off apps.
That's right. I got to get to work, but I'll make it worth your while.
What's like the famous appetizer? What's like the famous Applebee's?
Don't they do like the rib thing?
I want to
say
say
on the commercial.
Yeah, but from an appetizer, I want to say
appetizer.
mozzarella sticks.
Okay.
Like it's kind of an Applebee's thing. Is like mozzarella sticks. Just get a bunch of mozzarella sticks.
What is Applebee's most famous for?
It's gotta be I think
dysentery?
It's the ribs.
No.
Or didn't they have like some kind of
Eating
beer
good?
batter or something or other?
I mean, Chili's was the ribs.
That's Chili's.
It's riblets is Applebee's signature dish. Salads, chicken, pasta, burgers, and, quote, riblets, Applebee's signature dish. Eating good in the neighborhood.
Eating good in the neighborhood. Well, yeah, Lions ate well. Meanwhile, on the local front, not as good a weekend. Not as good a weekend.
No, that's not great.
This
Not
is
good.
also what makes, because I was looking at the schedule for all the teams that are in the wild card race, and I'm like, I think it really still looks good for the Padres, and as long as they keep mostly playing how they've been playing, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. But then you look at the schedule, and it's like on paper, you look at the Giants as you got to take 2 out of 3, right? And so it's so hard to look at any of the teams in that wild card race and be like, well, their schedule looks like this or that, because it's true, right? Like there's some schedules that look harder than others, but it's just so unpredictable right now.
It is. And, doggone that Chris Ello. Doggone him. Doggone you, Ello. Because we were in such a great mood on the round table on Thursday. And then Ben asked, what's your concern? And we had legitimate concerns. And then Chris had to pull the dang ace of spades out of his sleeve, throw the trump card down, and he said, my biggest concern is baseball. It's baseball, and the second you feel that you're right, things will go wrong. And you won't know why, and then they just will. And that night, we were up 3-0 with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the 9th inning and gave up a grand slam to a number 9 hitter that had like 6 homers for the entire year, opposite field off of Robert Suarez on 100. What? That's baseball. And then the next day, we win. Yay! We win. Jackson Merrill fouls a fastball right off his knee and goes down in a heap. And as I'm watching that game and we're celebrating everything else, I go, nope. This is one of the worst losses of the season. I don't care what the record is if Merrill's hurt. Now he came back 2 days later. Incredible to see. But the Padres lost on Saturday. Padres lost on Sunday in the weirdest, most annoying style possible, honestly.
It was weird. It was weird. I still think the Padres are in a good spot. And you look at what happened, look at what happened with the Diamondbacks. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Astros. Look at, which I guess you would maybe expect with how well the
Astros great team at home.
But still, lost 2 out of 3, okay? Mets finally lost a game yesterday. Again, it's I'm falling into that trap a little bit too of just, hey, how are these other teams doing? And it's what we do this time of year. The Padres just need to win more than they lose, and continue to kind of instill what they've been doing this stretch out of the All-Star break in terms of how they want to play. Like, I look at yesterday's game, and I think the players will say as bad as it was, as like gut-wrenching as that one was too, they were close. Like, they came back, they got within a run. They look at that stuff after a game, not in a moral victory kind of way, but in a, hey, we're still playing the kind of baseball we know we need to be playing for the most part, so that kind of gives them the confidence going forward.
Yes. I am not down on this team, and as I wrote on Twitter last night, which I very occasionally use, I'm not going to white-knuckle it yet. But I do want to build off the final segment from the prior show from Ben and Woods, because they had a conversation.
I missed this, okay?
Classic Higgins framing, where he was like, here's scenario A, Padres go 9-8, finish 90-72, sneak into the playoffs, have success in the playoffs, maybe make the World Series. Everyone loves it. It's a great year. It's the best year. Scenario 2, Padres go 9-8, finish 90-72. Braves finish with 91 wins. Mets finish with 90 wins. Diamondbacks finish with 91 wins. Miss the playoffs altogether.
The Padres would?
Yes, absolutely.
Even if they went 9-8?
Absolutely. If the Mets got to 90 and the Braves got to 91 and the Diamondbacks got to 91 or more, you would be out. You'd be out. And then it's like, with Ben's framing, it was like, well, preseason expectations, we thought 81 wins, 90 wins. It's a great year. It's a great year either way. Isn't it a great year either way? And the answer is absolutely, from me, from Mike 1 in here, tell me I'm wrong. The answer is absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no scenario in which the Padres miss the playoffs at the end of the year that we go, slap on the back, guys, great job.
Okay, but I do think, didn't you say like earlier this season that because of the way they were playing with heart, you were fine with kind of whatever happened?
Then we traded our whole minor league system. It's okay. It's okay to raise your expectations. It's okay. When a team raises their expectations, it's okay to raise yours. It is. In my opinion, it is. And that's what they were talking about. Well, like, if you were told at the beginning of the year, XYZ, if you were told at the beginning of the year, the Padres are going to have the Rookie of the Year, and they are going to trade 13 of their top 15 prospects. If you said that on March 1st, right? March 1st. We don't know anything. We're in spring training. Hey, you're going to have the Rookie of the Year, and you're going to trade 13 of your top 15 prospects. What would we say? We'd say playoffs or bust. 100%, we'd say playoffs or bust. And I think this team's going to make the playoffs. And I think that this team is going to make noise in the playoffs. I do. I believe in this team. God, I was on KNBR this weekend with Marty Lurie. I said it all. I'm like, I believe in this team more than almost any team I've ever seen. Like any Padre team I've ever seen. Almost for sure. I believe in this team. And then they go out with a 2-0 lead, lose that game Saturday behind Dylan Cease, go out yesterday, lose behind Musgrove, give up 6 runs on 10 pitches. 10 pitches. Just, okay, 0-0-6-0. And I'm not going to white knuckle this team. But last week was a losing. Yes, you went 3-3. It's not good enough. It's not. It's not good enough. Not right now. Because here's why. Here's my final plank in the argument. And then please throw me off that plank. Please. That's 6 losses to the Giants now. That's 6 losses to a bad, annoying, falling apart Giants team. 8 losses to the Rockies. 3 losses to the Angels. That's 17 of your losses this year to really bad, go nowhere teams. And that's a lot. That's enough for me to say, no, we got to make the playoffs, man. Otherwise, I'm going to look at those games and say, we blew this season if we don't make it. And I believe firmly we will make it. I'm not white knuckling. I swear to God, I'm not yet.
No, I mean, there's really no argument. This is an organization that has to make the playoffs. I mean, this is what their goal is. Their goal is to make the playoffs. It is to go far in the playoffs. It will be a huge disappointment for the organization and the players inside of that clubhouse if they don't make the playoffs. I just remember a lot of talk coming out of that stretch in the All-Star break, and especially when they were asking for, season ticket holders to renew and whatnot, of, hey, this is a team and they have played with a lot of heart and whatnot. And so whatever happens, happens. Of course, but at that point, I guess it was easier to fathom that they were going to make the playoffs because there was such a kind of a more of a gap, I guess, between maybe some of the lower teams. And now the Mets and the Braves have kind of closed that a little bit. But no, listen, I mean, I'm not going to tell you people out there listening whatever you want to think, you should think, right? But for the organization and for everyone in this room, I'll speak for Braden, but he can interrupt and disagree if he'd like, it's playoffs. This is a team that has, like you said, mortgaged a lot of minor leaguers, that has given itself kind of a window, that has invested quite a bit, that fans have invested in. It would be a huge disappointment for this organization and this clubhouse not to make the playoffs.
And look, I strongly believe they will. I do strongly believe they will. I think yesterday's game was one of those games. It was a baseball is stupid game. Put it in the baseball is stupid bucket. Joe Musgrove gets 10 guys out in a row with 6 strikeouts. He looks to be the most unhittable pitcher, more than Cease with a no-hitter. Like, Cease, at least some guys put their bat on the ball. He was completely shutting them down. And then a first pitch fly out to right field, can of corn in the high Sunday sky, and Toddy loses it. It happens, man. It's not that he was dozing out there. So many people threw stuff at Tatis, words-wise, not literally, after missing that play. Great outfielders miss that play in a high Sunday sky sometimes. It happens every once in a while. And it happened to literally the best outfielder defensively in the game last year. And it dropped. And then 9 pitches later, it was 6-0. It's almost unfathomable. 1 ball drops on a guy who is 10 up, 10 down, 6 Ks. And 9 pitches later, homer, single, homer, single, homer. 6-0.
Yeah, that was a weird one. And even Joe Musgrove said after the game, I've never seen anything like that for me or for anyone else, because he was absolutely cruising, retired the first 10 hitters he saw. I think it took him 37 pitches to retire them, 6 strikeouts during that time. And then within the span of, it was 10 pitches or whatever, he gives up 6 runs and the 3 home runs. And then he, that's one where I just kind of go, okay, like Joe has showed us out of the break, out of the injured list stint, that he has good stuff inside of him. You know, he is feeling good. He's able to get guys out. He's able to go 5-6 innings. You know, he's been able to have that longevity. So I'd look at yesterday as kind of a blip. I mean, unless I see something that shows me otherwise, I look at yesterday like, oh, like that's just one where you're like, what in the world? And he said that he didn't think that there were any tips or tells, but that, you know, he was going to go back and look at it. Maybe there was. But 3 home runs in that span, sure, like that's one where you're just like, what is going on, right? Like what? Yeah. You know, it's weird. Joe will labor through some starts, but he rarely gives up a ton of runs. Like he rarely gets past like the 3 mark. He will have those every once in a while, but he'll usually be able to. It's not within 10 pitches. You know, like that was just weird. I agree with you on Tatis. Like, look, he has talked about he's tried to wear the sunglasses, and it makes it worse for him. So I'm going to trust him on that he's done that, and it's not any better. It's even worse. So he, I think, just got caught in that sun, and that happens. I would look at the Giants. To me, it was way worse what they did, where the 2 guys collided and the ball fell, and then they both kind of looked at it, you know, and then the 2 runs scored for the Padres. I mean, It was great for the Padres, but like that is a terrible error.
It was. Well, and it was a game of back and forth nonsense. I mean, the 7-1, you know, you're out of it. You're getting drubbed on a hot day. All of a sudden, that play happens, and now it's 7-4. Then Bogart's homers, and it's 7-6. Then the next guy gets on, and Peralta, and you're like, we're going to beat Duvall. This has been happening to the Giants all second half long.
Yeah.
That they've been cratering with big leads. Their bullpen's been faltering. They leave in their relievers too long.
And he pitched the night before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, Melvin came out and he says, I'm going to have my closer pitch a 5-out save. And again, I'm thinking, hey, we're in great shape here. Like, even if something goes wrong this inning, we're going to have him tired next inning because we're going to work on him for the rest of the inning. And then Tyler Wade goes out there and pinch runs for Peralta and has sorry Than out there, sorry Ha-Sung Kim haters out there, has the single worst pickoff of the year. The worst pickoff of the year, where he literally dances off the base as the reliever's looking at him. He's like, do, oh, uh-oh. And then he's out by you.
He was out by like a mile.
He was out from you to me. And you and I are about, 3 feet apart.
His body was leaning more towards second base, and by the time he got his body shifted back, it was over. It was a wrap.
Yeah, and so was the game. The game was a wrap at that point, and the Padres lose one. So, listen, we were so close this homestand. 2-0 and 1 pitch from being 3-0 and sweeping the Tigers. And the one thing you didn't want after the loss of the year was for it to lead to bad play. And the Padres played great on Friday, but they did not play well Saturday, and they did not play well Sunday. Those were not good Padres games. And you could afford that. You could afford it. The Padres are still a half game ahead of Arizona. They did not do what I asked. I asked a week ago for them to gain 1 game on Arizona this week. They had a great opportunity. Arizona lost 2 out of 3. You didn't do it. You wound up even, half game up. Now that cut line is 2 to the Braves, and it's effectively 1 to the Mets because the Mets hold your tiebreaker the rest of the year. And the Diamondbacks aren't far from holding your tiebreaker. That could come at the end of the year as well. So it's a very, very tight race that could be determined by how well or how poorly the starting rotation does in the final 17 games. What we said in game 1 is proving so true 145 games later. This team's going to go as far as the starting rotation takes them. And this last week, the starting rotation was not good. Darvish wobbled badly. Cease wobbled badly. And Musgrove had a nightmare stretch of 10 pitches where he gave up 6 runs. That's not going to get it done when Martin Perez and Michael King are your 2 most reliable starters. That's not going to get it done. So, hey, still in charge. Everything in front of you. Win your games you're in. It's an absolute guarantee. But the previous 2 weeks, and people in the chat were like, hey, Craig, you're too soft. The previous 2 weeks, I said 4-3 was great. It was a perfectly good record. 3-3 was not good enough last week, and 2-3 or 3-2 this week is going to be tough. 3-2 is the absolute bare minimum. Absolute bare minimum this week.
Mariners, 2 against the Mariners, 3 against the Giants.
Yep. You got to at least win 3. At least
I would
win
agree
3.
with that. Yeah.
And if you don't, you are heading home to face a really, really good Houston team in potentially a tough spot, in potentially a very difficult spot, because the Mets don't play the Phillies till the end. Like those Mets-Phillies series, like if we're counting on the Phillies to beat the Mets into submission and to take care of business for us, it's not a guarantee. Nothing's guaranteed.
What I don't know, too, is how far ahead, where will you get to the point where maybe some teams are resting some players, or will you get to that point this year? Will the Astros get to that point? I don't think it'll be by next week, would it? I mean, the race is probably too close.
But the Phillies could.
Might be, right. So will if the Dodgers are really far ahead, will they care so much about that last series of the season? I don't know,
Right.
and so, but it's so dependent right now on, so many other things happening that the Padres really just kind of have to stay the course, get back on the winning side of things. And as we say every time, right, don't let this turn into a bigger slide.
That's it. And so, yeah, a note of caution today. I did not throw up the red alert flag. I'm not going to white knuckle this yet, but it's really important to recognize that 2 games ain't much. You've spent the little cushion you had. I remember when we were comfortably 5+ games over the Mets.
I thought there was all this talk about how if they just go 500, but now it's because the other teams below them have
done so well.
The Mets won 9 straight games. That's out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it.
I mean, if everybody wins like 9 or 8 games in a row, you have to match. Otherwise, you're not going to be in the playoff. You'll sit there with 91 wins and be like, well, we missed out, I guess, because everybody else played better than us. It's just it's the way of the game sometimes.
Yep, that's where it is. We're going to do a lot more Padres, of course, in the 11 a.m. hour. When we have our Padres Deep Dive weekend in review, we'll go through each game in detail. We'll look at the race in detail. We'll continue to review the weekend that was when we come back talking about Alex Morgan's final match at Snapdragon Stadium yesterday evening. Crowd of over 26,000 in high heat, and on the same day, literally an hour after a Padres game. And some truly memorable moments last night, along with some truly disappointing moments last night at Snapdragon Stadium. We'll come back and detail that as we continue to catch up on the weekend that was. It's Andy and Elsten, your midday hang on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. What a crazy, steamy, obnoxiously humid weekend it was here in San Diego.
It was toasty. I was driving through La Mesa yesterday, 111.
Yeah.
111 at like, I don't know, it was like noon or something. So like the hot time of the day, but still 111.
Not okay.
What's going
Not
on?
okay. And so I was at the Rose Bowl Saturday. Busy weekend for me.
How hot was it there?
It was, I'll tell you what, it was ridiculously hot. It was 105 and humid. It felt miserable, business casual. And thank God the press box area, the Keith Jackson Memorial Press Box at the Rose Bowl, is wonderfully air conditioned.
Oh, that's nice.
Wonderfully air conditioned. Although there was one, I was telling Peyton before the show, there was one little small open window in there, and it was like sitting next to the blast furnace. Just like nice and cool, nice and cool, nice and cool. The heat of death is just blasting you. So, yeah, absolutely wild. But the DJ there for the because I was there for Mexico against New Zealand, doing a international friendly, and the DJ there is from Phoenix. DJ Ocho was from Phoenix, and he was like
DJ Ocho.
DJ Ocho, not as good as DJ C's yesterday, but nonetheless, or Washington Nationals left-hander DJ Hers.
DJ Hers is the best one.
Yeah, he's good. He throws harder than either one of them, or both combined, really. But anyways, DJ Ocho had to switch his Mexico camiseta like twice. Had to switch his jersey.
It was so hot.
And he was up in the press box for a little bit, and he's like, "Man, I'm from Phoenix. And this is way too hot because of the humidity." Like the humidity.
And there's something about, you just don't expect that here.
Yeah.
But the humidity, it was thick. It was thick
It was
outside.
Really
I'm seeing in the chat, Adam Paul saying that the power was out everywhere. I saw that too. There was a lot of people that were dealing with power grid issues, and the Hollywood Bowl last night canceled also because of the power outage. So it was affecting a few things.
It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. And just you didn't want to do anything. I mean,
you felt pretty lethargic, and I understand. Well, I mean, both teams had to play in it. But you can imagine that it also probably didn't feel that great outside.
No, I mean, hey, we thought all the way until warm-up started that the wave match would be postponed because there's a rule that you, just like the high school rule, you can't start if it's like above 92.9 degrees on the field, and they have that same wet bulb thermometer, which I guess I should get because that seems like the new cool thing. Everyone's talking about the wet bulb thermometer. I don't know.
Thingamajig that made a deal with CIF, and now everybody had to buy one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, interesting how that works.
There's some company that's just like, yes.
It's amazing how that works.
But hey, speaking of last night.
Just very quickly, my friends' kids' Little League team or their travel ball team or whatever, they still played. I'm like, what is going on, travel ball parents?
Don't do that.
You should never be playing.
Well, don't get me started on travel ball. Remember, if you don't play, the coach doesn't get paid a check. That's all I need to know about
the coach
travel
being
ball.
paid, but like,
well, if
I
it's
felt
travel
like,
ball, it's different than Little
I
League.
don't know what he was in, but it was. She was like, "We're going to the game," and they moved it up an hour earlier so it wouldn't be as hot. But it was still like 11 a.m. I'm like,
that's ridiculous.
What's happening?
Yeah, we moved from noon to 11 to make it better on you.
Sorry, dehydrated kids or whatever.
Oh my
Don't
gosh.
get me started
Anyways.
on travel ball.
But so that was the scene yesterday, and by the way, Saturday with it so hot at the Rose Bowl, there was only like 25,700 announced for a Mexico match against New Zealand. It was stunning. The people who are in charge of this yearly Mexico tour through the U.S. was just like one of the most disappointing crowds in the history of the national team.
Because it was so hot?
And because even though it was the first game under their new head coach, the Mexican team hasn't been very good this year. And so it was felt that it was a combination of the two. I think it was mostly the heat. Because, I mean, the Rose Bowl, like Snapdragon, very little places to hide. If the shade isn't on you, you're doomed.
And you're not moving around, so you're just kind of sitting in the wet bulb.
Yeah.
Okay?
Creating your own wet bulb.
You're creating your own special sweat session.
But I got to tell you, the crowd that came out last night was a crowd that was there to celebrate Alex Morgan. It was beyond a soccer crowd.
I saw a lot of signs.
Yes.
Her speech, I'm sure you'll get to. She mentioned people came from all over, but it looked like it was pretty. Was it pretty good crowd for her.
Yeah. Oh, hey, there was a bigger crowd at Snap yesterday than there was at the Rose Bowl for Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Should tell you everything you need to know. By a few hundred. But it was over 26,000 for Alex Morgan's final match. And listen, Snapdragon Stadium and the Heat don't mix. Same problem that the Rose Bowl has, very little shade if you're actually in the seating bowl. So a lot of fans that braved that heat. Wave did a great job, set up those cool zones, the misters, set up fans everywhere. Like they did everything they possibly could. And really a very emotional evening as she walked out first, leading her team out, was captain for the match. They played a lovely tribute video, including a lot of her own words from her Instagram farewell, put to video and put to music. And then it seemed like magic was going to shine on the Wave.
The soccer gods.
The soccer gods. Because after conceding immediately, 4th minute, first corner, North Carolina puts it to the middle. It's headed into the net. Wave are down 1-0 in a snap. And then 5 minutes later, penalty drawn against North Carolina on the other side of the field in the penalty area. That means a penalty kick. And that means you get to choose your penalty kick taker. And here steps Alex Morgan to the penalty spot. The crowd going crazy. You don't introduce penalty kickers. I wanted to so bad just to get that incredible screen, but you didn't even need it because everyone saw it. Her face is on the big screen. She's standing on the dot.
So this is her moment.
This is her moment. This is it. This is it. This is it. Courage goalkeeper. Don't you see the moment?
Let her have this.
Don't you see the moment? She makes a leaping save, glove save, top corner right, leaping to her right. Did Alex, telegraph where she was putting it? I don't know.
And if you're Alex Morgan, you wouldn't want someone to just let the ball slip
I
through.
know.
You would want him to play competitive, but
doggone it.
Didn't the other team win by a lot?
They won 4-1.
Okay, well, yeah, it could have just kind of.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't know that at the time.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
It would have been the equalizer. And then 2 minutes later, they equalized. And as the team was celebrating, the 13th minute arrived, and it was a pre-choreographed thing that they would sub out Alex Morgan, number 13, in the 13th minute.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, and she took her shoes off at center field. It kind of rolled down her socks. Like, that's it. It just walked off on sock feet, embraced all her teammates, waved to the crowd, a couple of tears. It was truly, truly, truly emotional. After the match, received flowers from her 4-year-old daughter, Charlie, and then took the microphone and spoke very, very heartfelt words.
I thought really eloquently,
yeah.
Yes.
And just there were incredible spontaneous moments, like even well after she was done speaking, where just the crowd just started up a new Alex Morgan.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking, and the whole North Carolina Courage team is standing on the field, and they're doing the clap right with it.
That's cool.
And the whole team. And they kept doing it.
That's how you respect someone like that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It was beautiful. It was absolutely deserved. Alex Morgan is a global icon who had one of the greatest careers in international soccer history. I can say sometime when I'm older, I was privileged to introduce her the last time, call her last goal, which was a while ago, and call her last moment, her last substitution off the field. Unfortunately, I got to do that for Megan Rapinoe just last year, and now for Alex Morgan, two of the greats of the past, 20 years of U.S. international soccer.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the rest of the match.
Not so good.
The rest of the match was a real,
not so magical.
real bummer. Real bummer. Because the Wave gave up another corner, and then they gave up another just breakdown defensively type goal. They trailed 3-1 at the half. There really wasn't much going in the second half for the team. Couple of chances, not a lot. Gave up a goal in stoppage time for 4-1. Just very, very difficult game on the field for the Wave, who have had a lost season. And I kind of talked about it a little bit last week, but straight up, this team's not going to make the playoffs. They've won 3 times in like 20 matches. They've tied 7 times, but they're not going to make the playoffs winning 3 times in 20 matches and not winning once in this homestand. They had to win this homestand, and they didn't get a single win. It's been a lost season. Alex finishes with a 0-goal season. You know, that moment, it just felt like it was her moment, and the moment disappeared. But doesn't change anything about the class of the woman, the class of the organization, how they handled it, all of the players, the league, like everything was classy. It's such a weird backdrop that amidst this, the Wave have had such an unsettlingly poor season, changing coaches, confusion around that. In the press box yesterday, I was talking to some people before we started, and it's just like, no one understands why that move was made. Like, people from the outside, people who follow soccer from the outside that were in for Alex, were just like, I don't get it. She was one of the best coaches, Casey Stoney. Why isn't she still the coach of the team? Nothing since she left has indicated in any way that she was the problem. The results have all gotten uniformly worse since she left. So just an unsettling season, amidst which a magical, special moment to celebrate one of the great players in history.
Yeah, and it does make you wonder as this season rolls on and what the status of Landon Donovan's going to be and how they might, look at that going forward. Wouldn't put this all on him, but it's just like what common ground do the two sides find, going forward after a season that it just doesn't go kind of the way that you would hope it to go, despite the changes. Casey Stoney certainly respected, it seemed like, among so many people, but it's cool you got to be there for Alex Morgan. She is, like you said, an icon here and in the soccer universe and globally among athletes. And it's got to be the weirdest feeling to go through that. And then I'm sure the high kind of, continues for a little bit and all the people messaging you and reaching out and everything. But then you wake up one day and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I'm not training. I'm not, I'm watching the Wave. I wonder if she's going to watch the Wave on TV. I wonder if she's going to go to any matches. I wonder if she, all that stuff that's just kind of got to be a little bit strange. But again, really cool for her because it sounds like she's already got some possible ideas in the works for what her next chapter will be. And I'm sure that we'll certainly hear about that when it's time.
Yeah. And of course, second kid on the way.
Yeah. Which is also kind of why it kind of made sense also to take her out.
Yeah.
It was pretty hot out there.
Oh my God. It was.
I don't know all the
ridiculously hot.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wish she could have gotten that goal. I mean, it would have been cool to see that, but
it would have been perfect.
Sports is cruel sometimes, right? Just
even losing 4-2, it would have been perfect.
Yeah.
If she had gotten that
had
goal.
her moment, right?
Yeah, and it's one last goal celebration, one last chance to be cheered in that way, because it's different for the celebration of congratulations on your career and the immediacy of you scored, we're tied. So. Pretty wild. Let's take a break. When we come back, What's Good, which is a weekly Monday segment to bring each of our individual perspectives from the weekend that was. We'll give that to you when we come back. Padres Deep Dive at the top of the hour right here on The Fan. Baseball coverage on 97.3 The Fan, presented by T-Mobile. Switch to T-Mobile and you can get tons of benefits and still save on every plan versus AT&T and Verizon. Use their savings calculator to find out how. Go to T-Mobile.com/switch. All right. Final segment, 10 a.m. hour, Monday. What's good? Hold for bumper. What's good, Annie?
Well, I want to start my What's Good with a shout out to Charisma, Padres fan Charisma,
Yes.
who her dog passed away over the weekend unexpectedly. And it was just very sad to see. She had it on social media and it was very sad. And it reminded me of Ben because he had to also put his. So this is really a general shout out to anyone who has to go through that with their animals. It's very sad, you know? My other What's Good has to do with animals too, but it has to do with ants. Now,
Okay.
I've never had an ant
I'm
problem.
listening now.
All right. I've never had an ant problem in this place that I've lived for several years now. And all of a sudden there are ants, but they're not like trails of ants. There's just ants popping out of like baseboards or plumbing or whatever. Then there's like 6 or 10 of them that go in circles and just look like they're a little messed up. And then that's it. Like there's not like a trail they're leading to. There's not whatever, but it's enough to annoy me where they're kind of popping out of everywhere. So I went down a little rabbit hole about ants and learned that these are scout ants.
Yes.
Ants are fascinating because there's like worker ants and the queen ant and the whole colony of ants, and they all have their little job. And then when the ants die, like there's ants that go and like bring them to the little ant funeral graveyard. I don't think they have a funeral for them, but they
It's
have
not a funeral.
like
per
they'd
se.
have like a little spot for them. Like ants are amazing. I still have to kill them, but
Yes.
ants are. I never knew that. I knew that about bees. I did not know that ants have such a dynamic communication
Yes.
with each other and robust like worker mentality thing.
Listen, the scout ant is insidious. That's the one you want to kill because when he goes back and tells his buddies,
My friend
then
told
there
me,
come the workers.
No, but my friend told me to get these like ant baits, and they, you know, the scout ant will get some of the ant bait, but it's like poisonous, and then
Yeah.
bring it back, and then they all come get it. So that's kind of how I got into like, well, what are they talking about, scout ants or whatever? But yeah, there's just a lot of scout ants right now, and I need the scout ants to just chill. There's nothing for you here, guys. Go back, try another house.
When I think about ant bait, I think about chilled lemonade and Judge Judy on the television. Wrong ants. Different
Adam
ants.
Paul, really? Have you seen the animated film Ants? I'm going to watch it. If that's like, I need to see a
It's
documentary.
not
on
really a
ants now.
documentary, doesn't it?
No.
Is it Jerry Seinfeld voicing one of the ants, or is that the other one?
It's like Bug's Life for adults is what Ants is.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a cartoon, but it's not for children.
Braden was good.
Had a long football weekend this
Yeah, you
weekend,
did.
obviously, with the Honor Bowl on Friday night. Always great to be part of the Honor Bowl, and they do a lot of cool things. And before the game starts, they build the battle cross, where they put the gun down in the box, and they had the boots and the dog tags, and it was family members of Gold Star recipients there. And they do it before every game, and it was tough because at one point, one of the Cathedral cheerleaders, her and her mom, put the dog tags of her dad on the battle cross. He was lost in Afghanistan, handing out food for aid, and got blown up and got killed by an IED or something like that. So it was really tough. I mean, I had a tear rolling down my face before we had to gear up for football. So. Love being part of the Honor Bowl and what the message it teaches about patriotism to all the young kids out there that understand, like before games they play high school football, that there's always something bigger, and so that was really cool. And then Saturday called the USD game against Central Washington. They got a W over a Division II Central Washington team that's ranked top 25 in the country that have scholarships, and USD does not for football. So a 2-0 start to USD, and then cruised over and got to watch the Aztecs play. Got to see Aztec Fast in person, although it was Aztec slow.
Ooh,
And got to enjoy the nice club seats
Oh,
which
that's
was
nice.
nice. So it was cool. Got the tailgate, saw some families from Cathedral whose kids are on the team now at San Diego State. They were very welcoming at the tailgate, and then got to enjoy a ball game as a fan. I don't get to do that a lot, so that was fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
So that was a good time. And then yesterday did the show, and then watched a lot of NFL football, and tried to recharge the battery a little bit, and got the America's Finest Football Show tonight, 10 o'clock. Tune in.
Very good.
Looking forward to that. What's good for me? I mean, certainly I would shout out John Hess, the Mex Tour people. Thank you for bringing me in for a second straight year. Got to work with them down in Snapdragon. And then when Mexican national team came rolling back into SoCal, he gave me a ring, and I was really happy to be able to do that. Super cool to be inside. What's good? The Keith Jackson press box is good. I'm sure you've never been in the press box at the Rose Bowl, or maybe you have, it could wait, because I think there's the press box and then there's the broadcast center. Like, I went up to floor F and it was press box, and then said you got to go to another to get to the broadcast area. So it's like, it's one thing to say, oh, this is the Keith Jackson press box. Like, they've wrapped all the doors of the elevators with pictures of him and something he said about something, the pithy comments from the past. And then you walk down the hall, and it's like all these different pictures of him at the Olympics and interviewing Bear Bryant and, at a national championship game and this and that, and chilling in a trench coat, writing notes. And I was just like, damn, you really left an impression, man.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. What's good also, Wave mentioned it, great job on the Alex Morgan tribute. Melanie Barcenas, the 17-year-old that's the now starting forward, put up a post on Instagram of her watching Alex Morgan as, I think, an 11 or 12-year-old, and her parents have the picture of her in the stands after the match getting the autograph from Alex Morgan on her jersey and then wearing that jersey of Morgan.
That's cool.
Yeah, at like 12. And then, of course, teammates for their last match. That's what's good for sure. And lastly, what's good in honor of my dad is Northern Illinois beating Notre Dame, because any week that USC wins and Notre Dame loses is one of my dad's favorite weeks. Favorite weeks of the year. He was so happy when I saw him Saturday night. And I'm like, well, Padres lost. He goes, hey, for me, Dodgers won, USC won, Notre Dame lost. It's pretty much a perfect day. And I'm like, guess it was, Dad.
Today was a good day.
We're going to come back with the Padres Deep Dive Hour weekend in review. All 3 games, state of the race, plenty of details and more when we come back with Annie and Elsten on the Fan. Talking Padres baseball with you on your midday hang. Annie and Elsten. We roll into hour number 2 of the program. The Deep Dive Hour is brought to you by Frozen Ropes Baseball and Softball Training Facilities. Now introducing the Freezy Batting Cage membership for only $79 a month. For more information, visit SanDiegoFrozenRopes.com. Annie Halbram, Craig Elsten, Braden Suprenant together in studio. And he'll be gone for the second half of the program today. So Braden and I will take you through the 12 and 1 o'clock hours. And we got plenty planned to roll through those 2 hours right now, as we do on Mondays. Coming back during the baseball season, time for the weekend in review. We'll go through all 3 games, get to all the storylines from the 3 games, get to, at the end, the state of the race, which is tighter than it was when we last chatted on Friday. So the good news about this, Annie, is the first game's a win. So we get to start on a very positive note.
And what a great game for Manny Machado.
Yes.
2 home runs, ties up that record, that Padres franchise record that you talked about has not been touched for a long time with Nate Colbert. And that was a good bounce-back win from what happened the night before with Robert Suarez blowing that save. I thought, that was what you wanted to see from the team.
Absolutely. I believe it's 50 years that
50 years
that the record is held, and it still holds until he hits the next one. Then he'll have it all to himself.
And, will that be on the road? It might be. We'll see.
It better be.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he's in a position where he can wait if the pitch comes to him. But no, it was good. Michael King, I thought, did really well. Allowed 1 run in 6 innings. Yeah, he did. Brian Hoeing, finally saw him back again. It was revealed that he needed a little rest between he had pitched quite a bit since coming over, and so they gave him a little rest. Adrian Morejon got the final 2 outs in the 8th, and then Estrada got the 9th.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe Robert Suarez needs a little rest, because since appearing on Thursday, he didn't appear Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He was warming up yesterday, and if the Padres had completed that comeback in the 8th, he would have pitched the 9th, but I did think it was interesting that he, after being so heavily leaned on, like the last couple of games, I was like, nope, put him in the lockbox, keep him away. And
then gets another day off tonight.
Yeah.
Right.
And because he only warmed up yesterday, warm-ups do count, but he didn't get into the game. So
yeah,
from a game standpoint, he'll have had 4 days off, but if he pitches tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you never know. And that is the thing about closers. You're like, oh my God, we need to give our closer a rest. It always means you're winning, if that's the case.
You know what's so funny, too? I was talking to some bullpen guys in the clubhouse, just chatting about bullpen usage. And, a few of them said, look, sometimes you're worse when you don't pitch, right? Like you get too much time off and you want to be pitching every day. It's this balance, right? Because there is a cumulative effect that happens. But you also don't want too much time off. And it is okay to go over your career high. Like you want to go over your career high. And sometimes, sometimes you go over your career high and your body takes a little bit of a dip, and then it strengthens back up, and then you go forward. So it's not always the worst thing in the world to be pushing past that. That's how you get to be a more, kind of more strong as a pitcher and be able to go longer throughout seasons, every inning forward, or every year forward, hopefully. So all these things aren't necessarily bad things. It's just if you don't want them all catching up at the same time.
100%. The Padres were very careful with Michael King, and Michael King has rewarded them. Michael King is 4th in the National League in ERA. He is at 3.10. He's got a real chance with a strong finish to finish with an ERA under 3 in his first year as a full-time starter. And I think it's very telling, kind of mixing in today headlines with Friday reviews, that when the Padres announced their 2 starters for Tuesday, Wednesday, it's Yu Darvish Tuesday, and it's Michael King Wednesday, going on 4 days rest. They had the setup to give him another week off, but if they keep him on rotation to pitch Wednesday, then that gives them a chance to get one more Michael King start by the end of the year if they need it in that last weekend. And they might need it.
So maybe they're looking at needing that consistency a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to. That's the whole thing. When we were talking on Friday, multiple times last week, if you listen carefully to the show, you heard me say there's a way for the Padres to get to the last week and have it not mean a lot. Yeah, and that's the goal. That's the dream, is to get to the last week and clinch the playoff berth on Monday or Tuesday, and then spend the weekend pitching Waldron, Perez, and Vasquez, and giving everyone an inning at the right time and doing retrospectives on all the comebacks and just setting yourself up. But right now, if you have another week like you did last week, you're projecting for games 161 and 162 to be about your playoff life, about your life in the playoffs, your chance in the playoffs. And that's what changes things so much.
And having the off days, right? So having some of those off days means they can manipulate things a little bit. And so it'll be interesting to watch and see if they do kind of move some stuff around. I saw in AC's newsletter this morning, he mentioned maybe pushing Musgrove so that he doesn't have to pitch against the Giants, which I think is an interesting thing. I don't know if it's necessary, but it's an interesting thing to see if they do that, and maybe having Darvish go one more time. And then what does that do? So there's obviously a domino effect from all this, and we'll see when it happens, but some interesting things I'm sure being thrown around.
No doubt about it. These conversations happen as things tighten. The race tightens, and then the constriction on your veins tighten, your sphincter tightens, everything tightens. Oh, God, what's going on here? So hopefully that won't be the case. Hopefully the Padres go 5-0 this week, and a couple other teams lose, and we look at, with 2 weeks to go, they've got a lovely 3-4 game cushion, and you feel very confident about how things are. Friday, thought it was all going to be right. And the best part of Friday is that it was close. It was 4-1 until Manny's second homer late in the game. But
I smashed that one, too.
Yeah, well, he did. He obliterated it. But Adam, Scott, and Suarez were locked off. And the Padres have the ability to close a game with Morejon, with Estrada, with some of the other guys in their bullpen. Hoying, who pitched well that day. You've got other guys to close a game. It doesn't have to be those three guys every single game. And that's the lesson I hope they take away from last Thursday's blown game. We don't want that game to cost us either the berth in the playoffs or a playoff game down the road by repeating the same mistakes. So hopefully, that is the case. I thought that was a great part about Friday.
Yeah, and Manny said after the game, we knew a couple guys are down in the bullpen, so we needed to put some runs on the board. So there was kind of a collective thought, right? Like, hey, let's just get it done early, get aggressive early. And it does make you wonder, right? Like if it had been closer, but you knew they weren't going to those guys. You knew those guys were out. So I think, like you said, you've got other guys in that bullpen that are fully capable of getting the job done as well.
Also, I think it bears noting, especially because we're kind of going to build to a narrative from Sunday's game, that Fernando Tatis Jr. had 2 hits and 2 runs scored on Friday. He was on board for Manny's homer. Those 2 runs scored really helped power the offense that day. So Fernando Tatis Jr. in his first week back had a walk-off hit on Wednesday, and then on Friday had a good, solid 2-hit game.
It was really good to see from him, and he was running in that game well, and it was good to see those contributions being made. Luis Arraez, another one who throughout this whole weekend looked more like Luis Arraez, being able to get the hitting back to where he wants it to be. Also talked a little bit about how his thumb is feeling better. I don't know how much better, but he said he doesn't want to think about his thumb anymore. So I think it was good on Friday to see that offense doing more of what we're used to them doing.
Yeah. And then, of course, Jackson Merrill hits one off his knee.
That was not good.
And all of a sudden, all these thoughts start rushing into your head.
I mean, it looked so painful. He was just doubled up, and it looked like it was just...
I immediately thought of Kyle Tucker. I mean, Kyle Tucker fouled one off his leg, and the Astros, sorry about it, lied about it for 3 months and said, he's got a bruise. He fractured his leg. You can fracture. I remember when Jermaine Dye fouled one off his leg in the playoffs for Oakland and snapped his leg. Was honestly never the same in his career again, or at least for a very long time.
I couldn't believe, I'll be honest, just because of the pain too, even if it is just a bruise, and I say just a bruise, that literally the imprint of the baseball seams were on his leg, So it's a really terrible bruise if you're going to think of it like that. But yes, it could do further damage, but I really was surprised to see him. I know he just took the pinch hit on Saturday.
Yep.
But even playing a full game yesterday, I was surprised.
Yeah, I was surprised as well.
But good to see.
Great to see.
Yeah.
Honestly, Jackson Merrill goes on the injured list on Saturday. None of the baseball results even matter. We're looking at an entirely different team, and we're recalibrating our thoughts for the future.
And wouldn't you hate for it to happen like that? You
Yes.
know, you have a season like that, and then you foul one off of yourself.
And that's baseball. And again,
that's baseball.
I
You're
was
right.
just once again, Elo's evil presence was like looming in my head. That's baseball. As I see Merrill crumpled on the ground. What are you afraid of? Baseball. Baseball, bad things. Because baseball, therefore bad things. He was right. I mean, he's not always right, but he was right about that. And then immediately that night, 2-out, 2-strike grand slam. Next day, Merrill gets hit, fouls one off his leg. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, are we going down this road?
And you know what? I'll tell you, that same mentality of that's baseball is kind of what they had last year. Like the players share that same oh no, they think of it more like here we go again, negatively or positively.
Right.
And so they have to prevent themselves, honestly, after these last 2 days even, or after the blown save or whatever, prevent themselves from going down that road of, wait, no, the baseball gods are coming to get us, or, the things aren't going to go our way, because it becomes easy to sometimes to think that way, right? And they have so much evidence to the contrary this year for the Padres that, look, that's baseball, can go the other way too, where things go your way.
We will turn our attention to Saturday and Sunday's games when we come back on the Padres Deep Dive Hour. And also, before the hour is up, updated look on the schedules remaining, the hunt for October, where the projected win totals lie, where the projected cut line is, and all of that as we continue forward. So stay right here. It is the Padres Deep Dive Hour for Monday, September 9th on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Frozen Ropes Baseball and Softball Training Facilities bring you the Padres Deep Dive Hour. Annie and Elsten here with you. Going through the weekend that was. And if you missed the first segment, of course, you can always go back and find it on the Odyssey app. Use the rewind or on-demand features. But also you missed the winning game. So we're into 2 losses now. So sorry about it. I'm sorry because they lost. I had nothing to do with either loss. Saturday was so dang frustrating and so dang predictable on some levels, Annie. Logan Webb, one of the best ground ball pitchers in baseball, maybe over the last 3-5 years, the best. Not sure what the exact number is, but I know this year he's one of the top 5 ground ball pitchers in Major League Baseball. He is an innings eater, gives up some hits. And the thing about Logan Webb is you got to get him at the beginning all the time. He really struggles the first time through the order. So sometimes you can just knock him around by getting him right away. And the Padres were getting Logan Webb right away.
Right.
First 4 guys reach. Manny RBI single. 1-0. Bases loaded. Nobody out. On a day that you're sitting Tatis for rest, you're sitting Merrill because he took a foul ball off the knee, and you are up 1-0, bases loaded, nobody out. And I'm in the Rose Bowl watching this on my laptop, and I'm just like, here we go.
And Logan Webb had that look on his face a little bit, a little frustration. He was shaking his head. You did. You felt like, hey, they had him. Scored some runs.
Next pitch. A sinker bearing to the inside part of the plate. Xander tries to inside out it, and he hits it right to the second baseman. 4-6-3, double play. Run scores, but it's 2-0. It's 2-0, but the inning is diffused. And, of course, the next guy gets out, and 2-0. Then very, very quickly turns into 3-2 San Francisco because as much as Logan Webb has a pattern of get him early or you won't get him at all, Dylan Cease has a pattern of, as Vin Scully used to say all the time, the little girl with the curl. You know, that when she is good, she's brilliant, but when she's bad, she's awful. And that must be some old poem from back in the 20s or 30s. The little girl with the curl, but it's still stuck in my head. Because Dylan Cease, you look in the first couple of innings, and you'll know. You'll know. He's either on it, and everyone's striking out, or he's hanging it, and he's a little bit off.
Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. It's a short poem, so I'll read it. There was a little girl who had a little curl right in the middle of her forehead. When she was good, she was very good indeed. But when she was bad, she was horrid.
When she was bad, she was horrid. That's it.
So it is an interesting thing, right, that what's going on with Dylan Cease, because what is going on with Dylan Cease? There was some talk about maybe working on some new mechanics, right? There was some talk of, is it possibly fatigue? No one officially, no one within the team was saying that, but, outside of the team, I think you could look at it and say, is there some fatigue happening here? Is he working on mechanics and they're just not really right where they need to be? I don't know. He obviously the command was off, right? Through 61 of his 101 pitches for strikes, allowed 6 hits, walked 2, and struck out 4. What do you make of that?
What I made of it watching it was that he was, I don't want to say lost at sea, but his command was absent for 4 innings. And then somewhere in the 4th inning, he found the tilt on his slider.
Yeah.
And then the rest of his outing, he was getting the swings and misses that you expect to get from Dylan Cease. But that's the thing. Dylan Cease has over 200 strikeouts. Dylan Cease has a no-hitter. He had a string of 22 innings where he allowed 2 hits. And his season ERA is 3.78. So he's pitched to almost a 4 ERA on balance.
Yes. And he has these chunks. It's kind of interesting to look at his season. He's got these chunks where he's unhittable, literally had a no-hitter, and, maybe 1 or 2 hits the entire 6 innings he's out there, or 7 or whatever. And then he went through the chunk early on where just everything seemed off. Then he got back on track. And now we're back in this little weird chunk of, hey, what's going on? It's pretty inconsistent again.
Yeah. And the dream is that the pattern holds. Because if the pattern holds, either next start or the start after, he'll go back into another 8 or 9 dominant start stretch. And if he does that at the exact right time, the Padres have a great chance to go to the World Series. But the thing is, I know. I don't have to just think it or feel it. I know that if the Padres do what we expect and make the playoffs, and you lose game 1 somehow, and Dylan Cease is your game 2 starter, that's not a comfortable feeling at all. Because you're going to come in and go, maybe we get 7 shutout innings. Maybe he puts us behind 4-5-0 in the second or third inning because he's completely lost it. And in that way alone, he is where Snell was in 2022. This team's game 2 starter, and you really aren't sure what you're going to get when you get to that big game.
Yeah, and I know they're working with him, obviously, and he's working on trying to fix whatever's going on. But it's sure, I think it's fair to say it's a little concerning because of these chunks. Like, when does he come out of the chunk? When does he go back into the next good chunk, I guess, you know? A lot of chunk talk here.
Yeah,
but,
good
but yeah, I think when
like
you
in
look
a hearty
at
soup, there are good chunks.
Yeah, when you look at
Most golf courses.
the context of I saw it with the Dodgers, and I'm sure you'll have it in Sports Fix. Like, Gavin Stone just went out again for that, or for them. They've lost pretty much every pitcher. So there are concerns around everybody with pitching, and I think it's fair to put the Padres in that category.
Absolutely. Logan Webb is just a bad matchup for San Diego because the Padres' number one weakness as an offense, we have told you since the beginning, is double plays. The number one weakness for this team is grounding into double plays. And Logan Webb induced 3 double plays in 6 innings. And that's the difference in the outing. He gave up 12 base runners in 6 innings, but he spun 3 double plays, and so he winds up with a quality start. Meanwhile, Cease had to work so hard, turning 2-0 into 4-2 against. Matsui gives up a home run. I mean, this kid McRae came in and had his best game of his life.
And that was another one. Wasn't he their number 9 hitter?
Yeah.
He's like their bottom of the lineup hitter. He's one of those that just, yeah. He had his moment. Had his moment all weekend, really.
Yeah. And so 6-3 winds up being the final. At 4-3, because it was 4-3 by the middle inning, you really thought once again, okay, the Padres are going to come back. Arise had another great game, 3 more hits, RBI single. But the Giants' maligned bullpen took care of business that night in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. And Yuki Matsui did not. He gave up the 2-run homer that turned 4-3 into 6-3 and kind of put the game on ice. He has fallen pretty much to the bottom of the depth chart now inside that 8-man bullpen. And it's weird because, I was on KNBR Saturday saying I think A.J. Preller is the likely executive of the year. I think he's made almost every right decision. It's hard to go 100% for a year. And Yuki Matsui, right now, looks like a miss.
Yuki Matsui, I think, has the potential to be really, really good for this bullpen. I think it's just growing pains. I really do, of being your first full season in the big leagues, coming over from Japan. And I think that now you can make the argument. I make the argument in my head that the front office, especially seeing what Ha-Seong Kim went through too his first year and how that is very normal, should know that if you're counting on a guy who's coming over, internationally to play maybe you don't want to have to count on him too much, right? And I don't know, maybe that was discussed. I'm sure it was, and they had another plan for whoever. But Yuki Matsui can be good, but I think he just wavers so much because he just hasn't he doesn't feel super comfortable yet, or he doesn't feel super grounded in what he's doing here yet.
Yeah, I mean. Well, he gave up 4 homers in August, and he's given up 2 in September. So that's the whole thing. He's given up 6 home runs in his last 62 plate appearances. So in a nutshell, that's the problem. Matsui was walking everybody at the beginning of the year, and he was inducing low confidence because he wasn't commanding the zone. Now he's not walking everybody, but he's given up 6 bombs in short order. And that has nuked his numbers, but it's also nuked our ability to rely on him.
Well, and that is the problem, is now you're getting to a point in the season where there's no victory losses or what moral victories or whatever.
Yeah.
There's no, you can't really handhold anymore. There's just, we got to win these games. I'm speaking for the team. We got to win these games. We got to get in the playoffs. We got to, all hands on deck mentality. And that's the thing. It's not like a team that already knows they're either so far ahead they don't need to worry about it, or they're not going to make it. And the thing about Yuki too is, isn't he signed
forever?
Like, let's hope that they
like
do figure
deal,
it out with him, right? Because he's got a 5-year, $28 million deal.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He and Peralta are the two. How does Wandy Peralta have a 4-year contract? Yeah. Like, it kind of blows your mind because you feel like, oh, well, that's a guy you're going to move away from next year. Didn't work out. No, he's back.
4 years, $16,500,000. Yeah,
he's back, and Yuki's back forever. So hopefully Yuki winds up being. Hopefully he winds up being what they projected. This year he's been an okay middle reliever, is what he's been. He's been an okay middle reliever.
I think he's got a higher ceiling. I think it's just when do you have time to work on that? You got to get called out of the bullpen when you got to get called out of the bullpen, and you're probably, and not to mention he's probably played more games and more intensity than he ever has all season, right? Or in his career, So and it's a longer season here, and I think he's talked about that. Not to mention everything that happened right with spring training and Korea and everything like that. So you're playing intense games now, and that is the thing, right? Like you may have misjudged a little bit to depend on him as much as you might need to in this first year.
Yeah, and of course we traded for Tanner Scott. Adrian Morejon.
They tried to plug those gaps.
Right.
You could argue that was kind of because they maybe didn't, fill that bullpen as the way they wanted it. Yeah. But they certainly did at the deadline.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, they swung and missed on De Los Santos, right? I mean, he was a nightmare for this team. He's just had a nightmare year. So that was Saturday, 6-3 loss to the Giants. Disappointing game because you came into it going, we won on Friday, looked so good. By the way, just not for nothing, I feel like the Padres play their absolute best baseball on Apple TV+. I do not know why.
Remember when there used to be a time when the Padres would be on national games and national TV and they would never do well?
Yes.
It was like if it was Sunday Night Baseball or whatever, you knew it's just not working out for them that time for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But now it's totally flipped. It seems like whenever they're on national games, they do really well. Apple TV Plus especially. Yeah.
I know there was that one game to start the second half where we lost to Cleveland 7-0. I think that's the time we've lost on Apple TV Plus. Normally we're putting up like 6-8 runs in the first 3 innings on Apple TV+.
I think last year, even amidst their losing, I feel like they had good games on Apple TV+.
I do too.
I might be making that up.
Lucky Charm. Apple TV Plus, Lucky Charm. Sunday, no Lucky Charm. We talked through some of the specifics of this game. I want to get more into the storylines that came out of the game after the break. But just once again, you got Joe Musgrove on a roll. You're facing a Giants nondescript fill-in starter. And so I actually want to start by pinging the offense. You didn't give Joe anything to work with. He threw 3 perfect innings, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, to get to the first, second, and third, and you rewarded him with bupkis. You rewarded him with absolutely nothing. So he goes back out there in the fourth, stuck on zeros, and he strikes out the first dude, and he's on an absolute roll, and he gives up a sun double that Tatis couldn't see in the high sky. Everyone who's out there that ripped him, go try it. Go try it.
Yeah, I really think that just happens. That's something that I agree, like even the best, and Tatis is one of the best.
Right.
The best outfielders, the best players, that happens to them because that sun is brutal. That sun is undefeated.
I saw Ichiro lose a ball in the sun. I saw Marquise Grissom lose a ball in the sun. I've seen Andrew Jones lose a ball in the sun. Like the greatest outfielders in the modern era, the best defenders in modern era, they've all lost a ball in the sun. Jim Edmonds lost a ball in the sun. So.
And I believe him. If he's tried it in glasses and it's worse for him, then I believe him on that.
Well, he's the one who's out there working on it. So he'd know what works for him or doesn't. If he forgot his sunglasses, and by the way, I
guess we see him wear sunglasses.
Yeah,
the next day.
Right. If he forgot.
No, now you gotta
and then after the game he was like, oh well, I don't like them. Then it's just what it is. It's BS. But I don't know unless proven otherwise. I believe that he's tried different things.
I do. Yeah.
And sometimes the sunglasses, just from experience of trying to feel the fly ball in the sun, it's actually worse because of the glare of the sunglasses.
He said it's worse.
And it's like you
glasses.
can't see anything, and it's better to have the sunglasses off and try to shield the sun with your glove than it is to actually use sunglasses. So I totally believe that for 100%.
I believe it too.
And I'm sure he has tried it, so
I do not believe. Here's what I do not believe. I do not believe that Joe Musgrove was tipping pitches, because how the heck would the Giants have had time to communicate it? 10 pitches later, it was 6-0.
I didn't hear any trash can banging in the background.
He talked about how they went out with, he threw a lot of first pitch strikes the first time through the lineup, and then he and Higashioka talked about how the hitters are probably going to be a little bit more aggressive their second time through for the Giants. So he's like, we don't want to go out of the zone. We don't want to nibbles too much where we're getting into these full counts and it's harder for us in terms of counts. But we wanted to switch it up a little bit. But he said even switching it up a little bit seemed like they were just on top of it.
Here's what I saw. No one has to say anything. Here's what I saw. I saw Musgrove on a roll, and then a ball dropped in right field that wasn't supposed to fall, and then he piped like the next 10 pitches in a row right down the middle of the plate.
I would say that he's so mentally, Joe is like one of the most mentally tough people I've ever seen, though. Like, it's hard for me to think that happening would affect him. Like,
I wouldn't think so either.
But
I wouldn't think so either, except the literal next pitch was a fastball down the middle, and Chapman hit it a country mile. He hit it over the bullpens.
I blame Chris Ello.
I blamed Chris Ello, too.
That's a baseball situation.
There's to blame Chris.
That's right. 100%.
Chris, it's all your fault.
Chris said the only thing I'm afraid of is baseball. That is a perfect example of it. You
really
have no
is.
explanation. Joe wouldn't let that happen to him. Well, you know what? Yeah. Baseball lets it happen sometimes.
And Tyler in the chat is right. The third homer, the Matos homer, was on an outside pitch. But the other ones were boop, 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 right down Broadway. Yeah. And, he got racked around. I think he lost his focus for the most brief period of time. Anyone can get tilted. That's a poker term. When you lose and you're mad, you're on tilt. And then when you're on tilt, your decision-making process is slightly off because you're filled with emotion. You're a little bit angry. You're a little bit this. You're a little bit sad. And the next thing you know, your decision-making is a little off. And I think anyone can be on tilt for a minute or two. And unfortunately, that minute or two, we were down 6-0. Just like, poof, done.
One thing he said after the game, Joe did, is like, it happened so fast. Because it did. 10 pitches. That's why he said after the game, he's never seen that happen to him or to anyone else, where you're just so dominant and then it happens that quickly, right? Like sometimes, you might get into a bases loaded situation and then maybe one run, or maybe you give up a grand slam or whatever. But for it to happen that quickly within the 10 pitches and the different batters was very, very strange.
It was very strange. And then the Giants gave us a gigantic gift. The game was supposed to be a miserable blowout loss, and then the second baseman and the shortstop collided when Jurickson was up with 2-1 and hit just a lousy pop-up to second base.
And then they just looked at the ball. Not that they could have gone to it. I get it. I think they were maybe so irritated also at what just happened. That was definitely, that was the second baseman's ball, right?
Yeah.
There's not.
But actually, after the game, Tyler Fitzgerald, the shortstop, said it was his mistake to go into Luciano's space, but that they basically failed. They were trying to communicate. They couldn't hear each other because of the great Padre fans, and they screwed up. But, they yelled at each other in the dugout. I watched after the game. Bob Melvin was, miserable. The Giants were really, really, really mad.
You don't want to. You gave up 2 runs. First, you gave up a run on the wild pitch. Okay, that happens. Okay, whatever. But then you give up 2 more runs as the Giants on a ball that was so catchable. Good for the Padres. They take advantage, and you have to have guys on base to be able to do that. So they put themselves in the opportunity. They always talk about that. But man, that was an ugly error.
It was an ugly error. The Padres almost took advantage, and they had all the momentum on their side. And it feels like so many times in this stupid game of baseball, it's like the mojo stick was getting traded. The Padres had the good mojo, and then Tatis dropped the fly ball, and everyone was like, I've got the mojo stick now. And the Giants grabbed it, and boom, we're up 7-1. And then they dropped the foul ball, and we're like, we got the mojo stick back. 7-1, how about 7-6, y'all? And a runner on base. And then Wade has the worst pickoff of the whole year.
I want a mojo stick.
Hey, if you can find it, hang on to it, because you're going to win. But if you drop it, mojo stick gone. And Tyler dropped that mojo stick like the U.S. team dropping the baton. Just dropped that mojo stick. I really like Tyler Wade. That was a miserably bad play. And it's not May anymore. And we're not making excuses anymore. You got picked off on first base with big hitters at the plate and a chance to win. And that was really, really disappointing.
We need the Augie Garrido speech.
He did have some good plays in center field when he filled in for Jackson Merrill. But yeah, you got to also look at what you just said is that you got your good hitters. I mean, not that they're all, doing their part in the lineup, but you got your top of the lineup coming up, right? And so let them do their thing.
Yeah, it was a very disappointing moment in the game. And listen,
the spirit stick. That's what it was reminding me of, the spirit stick.
The spirit stick.
We had that at Valhalla. Yeah. We got to get into maybe a little Xander Bogaerts.
That's what we're going to do when we come back.
Kim talk. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that when we come back. I will just notice very quietly that in his last 25 games, Jurickson Profar's hitting 187.
He's going through a rough stretch, no
He's
doubt
hitting
about
187. And the idea, it seems unfathomable from a month ago, but the idea, I hate to keep beating this baton. I'm sorry. But Jackson Merrill's been our best left-handed hitter, and he hits 7th. And Jurickson Profar is currently our worst left-handed hitter, and he's hitting 3rd. And I know that Jurickson can be better, and I know that he has been better, and I love the at-bats he brings. Other teams would look at this and think it was insane. We know who we are, and we know our guys, and we understand the dynamics of the lineup, but we've got it in kind of reverse order now in terms of performance. Not in terms of who they are and everything else, but in terms of pure performance, we've got our best hitter 7th, and we've got the most struggling hitter 3rd.
I wouldn't switch him and Jackson, but you could move him down the lineup. Like, Jurickson doesn't care. He really doesn't. Move him down the lineup if you want. I know Mike Schultz likes his righty-lefty, whatevers, but Jurickson's a switch hitter, so move him where you want to move him. But I think Jurickson, it's one of those things that you just mentioned. It's that he takes really good at-bats. And to have a guy up there in those situations that is able, that has come through for you pretty much the whole year, you want to kind of get him going where he can do that again, right? But look, he's not going to mind. You move him down the lineup, he doesn't care, and then maybe you move him back up if things start looking better toward the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think there's any harm in flipping Jake to 3rd and Jurickson to 5th.
Something like that.
For a short period of time. I get that for some reason the Rubicon of moving up Merrill is just one bridge too far. They don't want to cross it.
But who knows? Maybe at this point you're like, maybe we look at the lineup tomorrow and Jackson is in the top 4.
Hey, if the team loses 3 games in a row or approaches the cut line, you better put everything on the table, because there's no, ooh, we're so happy, we're to keep our mojo. If you miss the playoffs, there's nothing. There's
I
nothing.
think it's more of a concern that if you move stuff around too much, you're going to maybe push yourself into a bigger problem.
Yeah.
But that's a risk sometimes you have to take, right? Yeah.
Well, it's that old boach. If you keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting what you're getting. And so at some point, something to consider. Okay, when we come back, what falls out of Sunday? Because the single biggest thing that happened on Sunday, maybe, was Mason McCoy getting pinch hit for, and Xander Bogaerts moving to shortstop, and then Xander Bogaerts after the game kind of redoing a talk show segment we did before, going, well, wouldn't it be better if Solano played every day? That was wild to me. Let's get into it when we come back on the Deep Dive Hour here on The Fan. Wrapping up the Padres Deep Dive Hour for September 9th. Brought to you by Frozen Ropes Baseball and Softball Training Facilities. Last segment for Annie. She's going to be checking out after this as well. Second half of the program today will be Braden and I, including Braden's football segment. Still to come in the 1 o'clock hour.
A lot of good games over the weekend.
Lots of good games over the weekends. Plenty of things to talk about. We went through the 3 games that were in the past 2 segments. Now, in this final segment, a look at the race, but also at the storylines that have come out, which primarily centers around shortstop. Annie, Ha-Seong Kim, don't call it a setback. He's been there for years. That's what Mike Schultz had to say. But Ha-Seong Kim is not back, and Ha-Seong Kim's arm is not improving. He is not throwing at full speed. Right. So, therefore, he is out now indefinitely. It went from 10 days to indefinitely. And I think we all agreed that the short-term plan that made the most sense was to put McCoy, Wade, just a straight replacement player in at short. Don't mess with everyone else's position. And then Kim comes back, and then you lock back into your regular formation. Well, now you don't know when Kim's going to be back, and I don't find it coincidental at all that now Xander Bogaerts discusses the fact that if he moves to short, Donovan Solano has a spot in the lineup. Like, yeah, we saw that weeks ago, but it's apparently sinking in.
Yeah, Kim is throwing across the diamond, but there's not really any zip behind his throws. And Mike Schultz stopped himself from calling it a setback, but essentially it's not a forward movement either, right? So I think it kind of tells us, reading between the lines a little bit, right, that they don't really feel that great about him coming back anytime soon, at least, if at all, maybe this season, right? We don't know that for sure, but seems like there's not an optimistic outlook on him coming back anytime soon. And honestly, Mason McCoy has done a good job. He did a good job, especially to start, but now as maybe some other pieces of the offense have a few ups and downs or have a few, rougher games, Mason McCoy looks a lot more like he's standing out because he is. He's a rookie essentially, right? I mean, he's joining this team and trying to do whatever he can, but he's not really going to be the guy that you necessarily want taking you into the postseason, right? But he's done a good job. I think he's done a solid job for what he's been asked to do coming up. So you have Xander Bogaerts, who after yesterday's game said, I feel really bad for Donovan Solano. I feel bad because he was hitting really well when he was in the lineup every day. And since he's been playing less regularly, his numbers have dropped way down. And it would be good to get him back in the lineup. Now, whether, that's their lockers are a few lockers apart. Xander said he was thinking about that a little bit during yesterday's game. Maybe they were thinking about it collectively as a team. I don't think that Xander is saying, I don't want to go back to shortstop because I'm just being stubborn. That is not at all how it is to me. Xander his body felt a lot out of whack when he started the season because he was working at second. Yes, he's played at shortstop for 11 seasons, but his body now, he feels comfortable with how things are going. He said to me last week that we were talking about Fernando's injury and how Fernando has to still limit himself in some ways. And Xander was saying, look, I don't dive for every ball. I don't dive for every ball because when I dive the next day, I'm in a lot of pain. It's really sore. So it's things like that I think Xander is looking at, where if you move back to shortstop, that might be better for the lineup, but will it push Xander into a worse position where he feels a little out of whack again? He feels a little bit like, and again, look, the guy's played shortstop for 11 seasons. I get it if you're out there rolling your eyes and you're like, he can easily go back to shortstop. But again, players, they depend a lot on routine. They depend a lot on feeling good about, defense in order to do well in offense and everything like that. So I think that they're in a position where they're probably going to move him and hopefully that works out best.
Every time you make a change, there's a potential for things to get better or things to get worse. You don't know until you make the switch. I was completely fine with Xander's description of why he wanted to stay at second base. And when this happened and Ha-Seong Kim got hurt, we did this show, this segment, this deep dive hour on the various scenarios. And we all agreed that if it was a short-term injury, that the way the Padres wound up handling it was the right way. But that if it was a longer-term injury, that you had to look at going to the more offensive lineup and putting Xander at shortstop. We have gone from short term to medium term now. And as we get toward long term, they're thinking about these things just like we were. So none of it's really surprising to me. If Suarez doesn't give up a grand slam on Thursday and the team has another game lead in the standings, maybe they don't talk about it quite as much. But when you lose 2 games to a real bummer team like the Giants, I think it opens up a lot of discussion in terms of we can't let this thing slip away.
Yeah. And I mean, sure, Donovan Solano does help your lineup. I mean, and the numbers bear it out. He started just 7 of the Padres' past 30 games and is batting 167 with a 265 on-base percentage during that time, 47 plate appearances. But he was batting 315 with a 356 on-base percentage while starting 41 of the 60 games before that. So, like most players, you're in the lineup more, you tend to get into a rhythm more. He's still a valuable bat off the bench. But the question will be, too, if you move Xander, does he stay there through if the Padres make the postseason? Or is Ha-Seong Kim going to come back?
Right.
And then do you move Xander back again? And I think those are questions that they need to ask, and I'm sure they are.
Last thing here, and we're inside the last minute, but after that game, the number one thing, and I've seen it in the chat too, the number one thing I saw was it's Tatis's fault. It's Tatis's fault. Tatis has changed things. Tatis is washed. Tatis is this. Tatis is that. Tatis is the other thing. So I just wanted to note that Fernando Tatis Jr. came back from a months-long femur injury on Monday of last week, took an offer, then hit the walk-off hit to win the game for the team. Then he took an offer. Then he had 2 hits. Then he had a pinch hit double. And then he took an offer. Like, did you expect him to get 3 hits every single game? It's his fault every time they lose, but it's not his fault when they win? Chill out on Tatis, gang. All right, we're right back with the 12 o'clock Sports Fix next.
Bye.
12 o'clock on a Monday. Welcome back, everybody. Your midday hang, Annie and Elsten, together with you for the next 2 hours until Gwen and Chris check in from 2 to 6. The Scraby Chronicles from 6 to 7. That's your order of business here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie has stepped out for the rest of the show. She'll be back with us tomorrow as we go full strength the rest of the week. For this 2-hour segment, Craig and Braden taking you the rest of the way. And as we do always in the lunch hours, you're opening up your salad and getting ready for the day. It's time to bring you the 12 o'clock Sports Fix. It's all the news that's fit to speak for Monday, September 9th, 2024. Your 12 o'clock Sports Fix with local, national, and regional sports news for you. Normally, I hand it right off to Annie here for the baseball beat, but seeing as Annie is in her car right now, it's my turn to give you the baseball beat. The one member of the Dodgers rotation to make every turn this season was right-hander Gavin Stone, but Stone went on the injured list over the weekend with shoulder inflammation. Stone joins on the Dodgers injured list Tyler Glasnow, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Clayton Kershaw, River Ryan, Tony Gonsolin, Emmett Sheehan, and Dustin May. They've got an entire rotation and 3 backups in the injured list. Now, Yamamoto is expected back soon. Glasnow projected to come back before the end of the year, but the annual Dodgers starting pitching deficit for the playoffs is now firmly in place. In some better news for L.A., the Dodgers are expected to activate reliever Buster Gratterall before today's game against the Chicago Cubs. He returned from a long battle with shoulder issues a month ago, and then in his very first appearance on the mound blew out his hamstring. But now he's ready to go. Seattle Mariners ace starter Luis Castillo is going to undergo an MRI exam after straining his left hamstring Sunday against the Cardinals. While Castillo is one of 5 strong starters in the Seattle rotation at 73 and 71, the M's are in desperation mode, need almost every win down the stretch to even have a shot at the playoffs. Emerson Hancock would step into the rotation if Castillo goes on the injured list. The Mets have been the hottest team in baseball for the last 3 weeks, but they have lost second baseman Jeff McNeil to a broken wrist for the rest of the season. McNeil was squaring to bunt when he was hit by a 80-mile-an-hour pitch on a padded wrist against Cincinnati on Friday, and yet a fracture was revealed in MRI exams on Saturday. That puts Jose Iglesias back in the lineup full-time for New York, which honestly seems like an upgrade anyway. The Braves seemingly trade wins for player injuries. Whit Merrifield, who was playing second base for the injured Ozzie Albies and took a fastball off his helmet last week, then proceeded to foul a ball off his foot this weekend, and he broke his small bone in that foot. The Braves have signed Kevin Biggio and could call him up if Merrifield goes on the injured list. On the other side of the spectrum, however, Albies is ramping up and could be activated this weekend. Perpetually injured Twins center fielder Byron Buxton had a setback in his right hip and was shut down from going out on a minor league rehab assignment. Buxton has been out since the middle of August. Carlos Correa has been out with plantar fasciitis since July. Neither has a timetable to go out on assignment. The Twins got swept by the Royals over the weekend, falling 2.5 games behind KC for the second wild card spot. Minnesota still 3.5 ahead of Detroit at the cut line. And the Texas Rangers expect both Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer back from the injured list this week. Far too late to change their season. Far too late to change Scherzer's trajectory. He's 40. He's about to be a free agent. But deGrom has 3 more years left on his deal. The Rangers would love a return on investment. The Padres dropped a disappointing 7-6 result to San Francisco on Sunday, losing 2 out of 3 for the weekend series. They traveled afterward to Seattle, where they wait for a 2-game series against the Mariners starting tomorrow. That's the baseball news story. Let's give you the story of the weekend scoreboard with Braden.
A lot of scores to report on from over the weekend as we'll take a look at the impact of the standings are now messy. because of the weekend scores throughout Major League Baseball in the National League. We'll start with some of the scores in the National League that impact the Padres coming up from yesterday. Padres obviously lost to the Giants 7-6, lose 2 out of 3 to the Gigantes. Good news is the New York Mets lost to the Reds on Sunday 3-1, thanks to Phil Maton, who got the loss for the Mets, doing the Lord's work, helping out his former ball club. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. Marlins over the Phillies 10-1, not really a big impact for the Padres. Other teams competing for wild card spots. The Diamondbacks beat up on the Astros 12-6. They did lose 2 out of 3 over the weekend. Atlanta Braves did beat the Blue Jays 4-3 in 11 innings. Other scores to report on throughout Major League Baseball. In the National League, it was the Pirates over the Nationals 7-3. Brewers lose to the Rockies 4-1. In interleague play, Guardians get blanked by the Dodgers 4-0. Cubs outlast the Yankees 2-1. And the other interleague score for you was the Mariners over the Cardinals 10-4. American League scores for you: Rays over the Orioles 2-1. White Sox beat the Red Sox 7-2. Royals over the Twins 2-0. And the last American League score for you, or the last two scores: Rangers over the Halos 7-4, and the Tigers beat the Athletics 9-1. That's the latest look at the MLB scores. I'll be back with some football stuff in just a little bit.
One highlight for you here, Braden, as we switch to the rest of the world of sports, and we begin with Sunday's dramatic farewell at Snapdragon Stadium. San Diego Wave FC saying farewell to Alex Morgan as the global soccer icon played her retirement match in front of over 26,000 fans at Snapdragon Stadium, the third biggest crowd in the NWSL this season. She subbed out in the 13th minute, the number that she's used throughout her career, to a prolonged standing ovation. But before that, in the 10th minute, the Wave drew a penalty inside the Courage zone, and Alex had her final chance on goal for her career, a penalty kick to try and even up the match.
A deep breath from Alex Morgan in her final match. One more time. No! Murphy! How could she? Doing her job, but spoiling the moment. Oh my goodness, Alex, all she can do is laugh.
And you can see the deep breath here from Alex, just trying to compose herself, knows it, and just...
Casey Murphy, the goalkeeper of NC Courage. That's a great call. I had not actually heard that, Braden.
That's great.
That's exactly how I would have called it too. How could she?
How could... All right, we got to stop the game here for a second. All right, we're going to do this again. You got to let the goal in.
This time, let it in.
Yeah, come on.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? It's bigger than the game. Come on.
Unfortunately for the Wave, NC Courage came to play. You can tell from that highlight. They dominated in the final third, had two corners turned into goals, wound up winning by a 4-1 count. The Wave head on the road, 7 points out of a playoff position with 5 matches left. Their playoff dreams are all but over. Yannick Sinner and Arina Sabalenka were your winners at the U.S. Open, your men's and women's champions. That denied the fans in Flushing the chance to cheer an American champion. They had Americans in the finals. San Diego's Taylor Fritz lost to Sinner in straight sets after beating Simcoe in a 5-set, Tiafoe, I should say, Francis Tiafoe, in a 5-set brilliant semifinal match. Wound up dropping straight sets to Yannick Sinner. USA's Jessica Pegula lost in the final to Sabalenka. NBA news, the Denver Nuggets have locked up star guard Jamal Murray to a new 4-year, $208 million max extension that will pay him in total over the next 5 seasons $244 million. Lastly, a golf match play event featuring PGA versus LIV will be happening later this year. The match, December on TNT out of Las Vegas, will pit Rory McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler against LIV Tour's Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka. Silly season. We'll enjoy that 2v2. That's the story from elsewhere around the world of sports. Let's now turn to the pigskin, where Braden's got your high school, college, NFL news.
All right, in the pigskin world, AP Top 25. The Union Tribune Top 10 just got released at 11:55 by John Maffei in the San Diego Union Tribune. Top 10 in San Diego County as voted on by the media members here in town. Lincoln in first with 19 first-place votes. They had a good win last week in Vegas against Coronado of Nevada. They're now 2-1 on the year. Got 19 first-place votes to be in first. Cathedral Catholic, number 2, with 7 first-place votes at 3-0. They beat Mountain Point over the weekend. Granite Hills with a tough loss to Perry out of Gilbert, Arizona as a part of the Honor Bowl on Saturday afternoon. They dropped to 3 in the county, but still got 4 first-place votes in this last poll. They're at 2-1. San Marcos with a big win over Mater Dei. They're now 3-0. They come in at number 4. Mission Hills beats Oceanside 28-14. They come in at number 5. La Costa Canyon, a little bit of a statement win for the Mavericks. They knocked off San Clemente over the weekend out of the southern section. LCC is now 3-0. Sean Sovacool's boys now 6 in the county according to the poll. Carlsbad comes in at 7. They won on Thursday over San Pasqual. They're now 2-1. Mount Miguel outlasts La Jolla Country Day. They come in at number 8 at 3-0. The La Jolla Vikings with another good win. They beat Madison on Friday. They're now 3-0 and at number 9. And number 10 of the county, El Camino at 2-1. They handled the Rancho Buena Vista team that has now started the season 0-3. Other teams receiving votes. I did vote for Rancho Bernardo in my top 10. They're 3-0 after beating Point Loma. Gage Weddle got a touchdown. The son of Eric Weddle plays backup quarterback or splits time at quarterback, but also is the starting safety for the Broncos. Mount Carmel comes in with a couple of votes at number 12, followed by Helix, University City, Central Union, and Scripps Ranch to round up the top 10. For more information on high school, we'll have our show tonight at 10 o'clock, the America's Finest Football Show, where we dabble in some high school and college football. As for college football, let's talk a little bit about the AP Top 25. New rankings came out yesterday. Georgia stays at number 1. Texas number 2 after a big win over Michigan. Ohio State cruised to a victory, and in the win, San Diego product out of Carlsbad High School, Julian Sayin got to play in the game at quarterback for the Buckeyes, threw a touchdown pass. So good for Julian to get his college career started. Alabama comes in at number 4, Ole Miss 5. In the rest of the top 10, Missouri, Tennessee, Penn State, Oregon, and Miami. USC, Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and Oklahoma in the top 15. Top 20, LSU, Michigan, Notre Dame, Louisville, and Arizona. And to round up the top 25, Iowa State, Clemson, Nebraska, Boston College, and Northern Illinois. Craig is trying to dance his way to get the lights back on. I don't know why the lights are off.
Lights just turned off in here like we weren't doing anything.
Maybe the power's not out because the lights are on everywhere else. So,
Yeah.
we'll move on.
I'll dance over here while you keep on.
All right, sounds good. Let's talk about Notre Dame. After evaluating his team's shocking 16-14 home loss to Northern Illinois on Saturday, Notre Dame coach Marcus Freeman said on Monday that in addition to the mistakes the Irish made on the field, it was also clear his team needs to learn how to handle success. 1 week after earning a season-opening win at Texas A&M and looking like a legitimate contender for the 12-team college football playoff, the Irish suffered one of the program's biggest upset in decades, losing a game they were favored to win by 28.5 points. Quote, "This is the first time in my 3 years as a head coach that we have won the big game early in the season. 2 losses to Ohio State, and then all of a sudden we win, and everybody says, hey, you're going into the playoff. You've got an easy schedule." We all hear it, and I think we started to believe that. There is a physical approach to preparing for a game, and I think physically we prepared the right way, he said, but there's also a mental approach and mindset that you have to have every single week, and I think that's where we failed. Speaking of the Irish failing, this is kind of where they were at, and I'll repeat this again on the show tonight, but Notre Dame, get this for a fact. Since the start of the 2022 season, FBS home teams are 6-18-38 as favorites of 14 points or more, which is a win percentage of .942. Notre Dame has suffered 3 of those 38 losses.
That's wild.
Home favorites of 20 or more. You got to send this to your dad. I'm sure he'll get fired up. Home favorites of 20 or more are 446-16. That's a .965 winning percentage. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish have suffered 2 of those 16 losses. The approach to Notre Dame, maybe they're just overrated all the time. Who's to say? But not really good from a statistical standpoint. Texas Longhorns had a really good win over Michigan and then went on to say, well, let's not do what Notre Dame did over the weekend. Quote, let's not have, he addressed his team, we don't want to have the Notre Dame scenario, and reminded his players that, quote, we're entitled to nothing following Saturday's 31-12 win over then 10 Michigan that moved the Longhorns to number 2 in the AP Top 25. Texas' 19-point victory of the Wolverines at Michigan Stadium represented an early statement victory in the Longhorns' pursuit of a second consecutive college football playoff appearance this fall. Led by 246 passing yards and 3 touchdowns for quarterback Quinn Ewers, Texas notched its largest road win over a top 10 opponent since 1979, handing Michigan its first home loss since 2020, the program's first defeat since, well, of course, Wolverines lost to another Texas school, TCU, in the 2022 college football playoff.
But don't let them forget.
How fitting Steve Sarkisian goes, you know what, guys, let's not do what Notre Dame did and lose this week. So that's a good little shot at Notre Dame. We'll have more on the NFL when we get to the NFL segment coming up at the 1:15 spot. But kind of funny with the Notre Dame noise in the college football realm. So there you have it. There's the college football, high school football part of the Sports Fix.
All right. While you finish that report, I finished a little redecorating. If you're watching on the YouTube, you will see that the spot that was formerly occupied by Ben and Dave Roberts glad-handing each other is now replaced by an Alex Morgan poster. What do you think about my improvements?
See, you're not that great of a guy, Ben, apparently. What's that sign say?
Ben, you're doing a great job.
Ben, you're doing a great job. Well, you're not doing that great of a job anymore. We hide you behind the 97.3 fan sign.
It's still back there. It's just hidden by the side.
So great.
Thought we'd just go ahead and put some more positivity out there. Because I got to tell you, every single morning and every day I come in here and I sit down and then I see Dave Roberts right there. And it's like, why? Why? Now I'll see Alex Morgan. Much nicer face. Much nicer. Much nicer. We'll see if it changes tomorrow. We'll see if there's retaliation from the Ben and Woods crew. But I think they'll be happy with the Alex Morgan poster. When we come back, we haven't talked Aztecs other than like a minute. We haven't talked Aztecs at all, so we'll get into what happened over the weekend, including Braden was there. And I'd also like to, and remind me to do it, Braden, have a follow-up to carry from what happened Saturday night into what happened Sunday evening at Snapdragon Stadium, because it is related when you play two major events on the exact same field in 22 hours. Guess what? Field gets torn to hell. We'll talk about it when we come back. It's Annie and Elsten here with you. Your midday hang on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Hey, fantasy football team owners, whether you're in a PPR league or not, wideouts could make or break your fantasy team. So you need to listen to Reception Perception, the podcast that specializes in wide receivers. Listen to new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. Follow Reception Perception on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. That was a live self-edit, Braden, because the entire read is about the draft, and every fantasy league has drafted. It's done.
I don't even include half of the baseball is boring read because it talks about to tune into the 2023 playoffs episodes. And I was like, maybe it's a typo. And I'm reading, like, nope, this is the 2023 read that's on here.
Hey, we are Ron Burgundy. We'll just read whatever's in front of us. But sometimes I will self-edit to make it a better read. And that's where we are. Okay, where we are on the show is a chance to chat through a couple of the stories we weren't able to get to in the first couple of hours. And next segment, by the way, we'll be playing today's silly game, which is Mind the Gap, the game of multi-generational trivia. So we'll be opening up the phone lines in just a few minutes to find today's contestant. But we chatted very briefly through what's good a little bit, because I know you were there, for the Aztecs. San Diego State coming off of a win over Texas A&M Commerce, but a game where they trailed at halftime and then rallied in the second half to win comfortably, not cover. So certainly I came in to Saturday evening's game against Oregon State, Braden, of the opinion that the Aztecs were underdogs in this one. And sure enough, they lost 21-0, the final score. That was interesting to me in that, Aztecs only gave up 21 points, played pretty good against Oregon State in that sense. And B, Aztec fast, not so much. Aztec shutout.
It's Aztecs quick to punt is what it currently is right now because of, and I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but when you run that high tempo, snapping the ball every, 15 seconds offense and you're getting incomplete passes, you're not getting any yards, you're giving the ball to the other team a lot. You're giving the team ample of opportunity and more drives and more opportunities to score, and you're really putting your defense in a bind more times than not. It reminds me of the when I was at TCU, my sophomore and junior years, they were running the high-tempo air raid offense that almost looked unstoppable because of the personnel they had. And then with the same offense as my senior year when Kenny Hill took over, who was not a bad quarterback, especially at the college level, I mean, it was an abysmal offense because it was run for a gain of 1, incomplete pass on a screen, got to try to get a chunk play on 3rd and long. All of a sudden, we're punting with 25 seconds off the clock, and now the other team's getting 50 possessions instead of like the normal amount of possessions in a game. Obviously, 50 is an enormous amount. But, you live by the fast, you die by the fast. Some people yesterday calling about changing don't change what you want to do and the identity you want to set, but it's going to take some time for some of these players that are used to running a more ground and pound offense to be able to adjust to this new offense. And the other thing too, Danny O'Neal's making some freshman mistakes. He looks tiny out there compared to the rest of the teams. And the other thing too is it's not even his fault. More times than not, there is nothing open downfield. And the receivers are not creating a lot of separation. So it's going to be a work in progress for Aztec Fast. I think they could get it and going around. I think the good news is your defense is a lot better than you expected it to be. Now, Oregon State's not a world beater team. They're good, but they're not great. So we'll see against Cal. Cal just went down and beat Auburn. They went down to the South and got a victory from Auburn. They won 21-14. So you got to play Cal this weekend, who just beat an SEC school. Now, granted, a not as good SEC school compared to the rest of the SEC, but still, a win against the SEC is a win against the SEC. So it's you got you don't have a lot of time to try to turn this thing around, and we'll see what happens when they go on the road. But this thing is going to be more of a project than I initially anticipated.
Everyone's going to be patient with Sean Lewis. It was great to have him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and certainly we were sincere in what we were saying, chatting with him, and understand he has turned over a good portion of the roster. A lot of people have transferred in. That's going to be the nature of all college football forever. until the rules change, is that every team's going to have 30, 40 transfers because of the portal and money and NIL and everything else. But the one thing you don't want to have happen, and it's one game, who cares? Usually in the history of the Aztecs preseason, they win their easy game, and then the second game is usually some tough game against a Pac-12 team, and they drop that one, and then maybe the third game is a little more manageable, and then eventually they'll get into the Mountain West schedule. But the only thing you don't want is to have a really bad offense this year. You need this thing to spark up and put some points on the board, because that's supposed to be the identity changer for San Diego State, is we're not going to play boring football anymore. And a 21-0 loss to a Pac-2 team, that fits right in with everything we saw, from the last couple of head coaches. So, it's one game. I'm not going to put any real heat onto that one, but even if they gave up a couple points, you'd love to see the Aztecs scoring 20, 30 points.
Yeah, and the biggest one, obviously, is you had, Danny O'Neal and made a fresh mistake down by the goal line. I mean, you can't fumble going in to potentially tie the game late in the game when you finally started moving the ball a little bit, and you fumble on the 3 going in, ultimately leads to a touchdown for Oregon State. Now, a 14-point deficit at the beginning of a fourth quarter that is really not that big of a deal in college football because how long quarters take, even though they have eliminated the new clock and they have a 2-minute warning now in college football. But, it seemed like an insurmountable lead for Oregon State at 14 points. The other thing, too, and I mentioned to you guys off air, Oregon State looked twice to 3 times the size of San Diego State in the trenches, which is a major problem in football, obviously. You want to try to have some dudes that are big, and those teams that were good for the Aztecs that were ground and pound teams, they had a good, solid offensive line and good size on the offensive line, and they just look completely overmatched in the size department. I thought the defense was really good on the bend, don't break, get to the ball. First drive for Oregon State was like a hot knife through butter. I thought the route was on, and then they shut them out the next 2 quarters. So defense played their ass off. Offense still needs to work some kinks out, and we'll see what they do against Cal. That was a good win for Cal Berkeley. They start 2-0 on the year. Maybe they're going to be feeling themselves a little bit after beating Auburn. You can sneak up on them, but we'll see what happens. I saw a handful of times where I think his name's Duffy, the backup quarterback from Florida State. Mm-hmm. He was warming up, so I don't know. And Danny O'Neal did take a weird, awkward fall when he tried to slide. It looks like his knee brace caught a little bit, so we'll see what happens. But offense needs they're going to be a major work in progress. And based on what I've seen from the receiving core, I don't know if it's going to be that big of a difference. Hopefully they can work some more quick game to help the running game out a little bit, because they got a really good running back in Marquez Cooper. But when everybody knows that he's your best weapon, they're going to load the box and be like, we'll let the freshman try to beat us.
Yeah, and David in the chat is exactly right. He says, Coach Lewis gets at least the entire season and early next season before we even have an idea of how it's going. And I think that's the right way to put it. Not he has this season and early next season to get it all right. It's that he has that long for us to even figure out what he's got. So we'll all be watching the Aztecs with that layer of patience, with that first-year coach pass, so to speak. All I'm saying is, they have not just a football issue. They have a public perception issue that their program is dull and not interesting to go attend. So, and a little bit overpriced, as Adam puts into the chat as well. So it would be great for that to be overcome with a few points here or there. We'll see how it goes. Meanwhile, another team we were chatting about that doesn't really fit in the NFL side of Braden's football segment, Colorado's just a train wreck. I was drawn to it. And as we were talking about off chat, like we had a couple hours in between our call time at the Rose Bowl on Saturday and when we really got to work. And I put that game on the laptop just thinking it was the most interesting of the set that was playing at that point in the afternoon. And then Nebraska pretty much ran roughshod on Colorado. And that offense is a joke. Honestly, the offense is a joke.
It's not. It's not very good. They don't have the O-line. And if you're an O-lineman, I don't know why you'd go play over there anyway, because you're going to get blamed for any of the problems 9 times out of 10. It's our boy Sean up there in Denver has been banned from asking questions to Dion and said he's the world's largest helicopter parent. I mean, he's literally there to get his kid NIL money and get him drafted, and then that's it. I mean, I'm curious to see what happens after the Sanders boys leave Colorado and to see if Dion's even going to be there. I mean, I think Colorado, sold themselves, made a deal with the devil, not Dion. Dion's not the devil, but they made made a deal with the devil to try to become relevant in a sport they haven't been relevant in years since they were so good in the 1990s. It's been a long time. And I think they wanted to be relevant so bad that they decided to hire Dion, despite their best thoughts and efforts on that. And this is what they got. They're relevant. I mean, they're a circus, but they're relevant. Are they going to win football games? No, they're not going to win football games. Not in the Big 12, not with the schedule that they have. I mean, Nebraska outclassed them over the weekend. I mean, they're so worried about such the wrong things over there. I talked about it before. Their compliance office is like swimming in paperwork to get kids out of that school because of all the players that Dion has cut, acting like it's an NFL team. And he thought he could run a college program like the NFL team, but the reality is you can't. There's just too many factors being in play. I mean, the whole story that came out this weekend about how Colorado has instructed their band to not play the fight song when Shakur Sanders scores a touchdown because they have to play Shakur's rap that he made because that's what Dion wanted. I mean, there's so many things that are such the wrong thing. And I just go and I sit there and look at Travis Hunter. That guy is a phenomenal football player. He's going to be a high draft pick. He's going to help out an NFL team. He's gonna make a lot of money playing this game, for his career. He looks so pissed off on the sideline because the guy wants to win, and unfortunately for him, he hooked his horse to the wrong cart. And it's not the one that he thinks is going to get him to the promised land.
Yeah. Last thing here, and then we'll get to the game. I meant to transition it more properly off of Aztecs, but I'm going to go back to it. So San Diego State, Oregon State play 21-0 game, play late on Saturday night. So I want to throw out all the important caveats. You only have so much time in the day. It's pretty much impossible to completely repair a pitch that has been torn up by a college football game and make it look pristine, 20 hours later. Heat plays a factor as well. And all of the tenants of Snapdragon Stadium understand who the number one tenant is. But I am telling you, Braden, this is the second straight Sunday evening that the Wave played at home after the Aztecs played on Saturday night. And last week, the pitch was torn up. There were, all those sandy divots that it looks like you're out at Mission Bay on the 6th tee, and just seeing all these sandy divots everywhere. That was last week. This week it was torn to hell. And I took a video. You can, if you follow me on Instagram at 619 Sports and Life, I posted the video on my story yesterday, and I just kind of took a close-up and went around the field and showed, and like each of the corners was completely messed up and was just dirt and rock. There were multiple giant patchy places right in front of the net. And then you went out to the middle of the field, and, it looked like a 15-year-old's acne-pocked face, the number of pock marks there were all over the field. And this is the message I wanted to get to because, listen, what can you do? What can you actually do? Physically, there's very little you can do. They did the best they could to build up the pitch the way that they could. But next year, San Diego FC moves into Snapdragon in addition to the Aztecs and the Wave. And I guarantee you next season, Braden, that when this happens in September, that the MLS team is going to scream bloody murder and is going to make it a major storyline. And it's going to become a thing. Like, oh, is it MLS against San Diego State now? Are they at loggerheads? And my reply to, and like half dozen people replied to my video and said, oh, they better fix this before MLS. And I'm like, what about the team that's there right now? The Wave have had to deal with this for 2 years now. And while it didn't impact the final score of the game, I mean, it's ugly, it's embarrassing, and I'm telling you, it was weird to have Alex Morgan being feted standing on the Mountain West logo. And again, there's nothing you can't repaint the field that fast, but this is going to be an issue next year. And the only reason it's not an issue right now is because the Wave are a little bit kinder about it, to be honest.
Well, I don't know what the solutions are for that because, Torero Stadium, they got 2 soccer teams right now with men's and women's and their football program, and about midway through the fall, that field is just torn to shreds, and the football team's not even allowed to practice on that field, obviously, and it's kind of tough. I mean, same thing was with Qualcomm. I mean, Qualcomm used to be the worst playing surface I had ever played on. Now, granted, we were blessed to be able to play a high school football game out there. It's in the middle of at the end of the football season, and it was Aztecs played on that Saturday, Chargers played on that Sunday, and then we played on Monday. So by the time we got the field, it was just torn to pieces, and the end zones were basically concrete because of being painted over so many different times for the Chargers, the Aztecs, and everything else like that. So curious to see what they decide to do. I mean, to me, the only way you're going to get a pristine field is if you just have your own stadium, because or you go to turf, which I think that would be a bad idea at Snapdragon Stadium anyway. Or you could play what the Raiders do and have multiple turfs rolling in and out. But I think they would have to probably get their own stadium if they want clean turf.
I guarantee you, if SDFC has success and sell out the way they intend to and make a mark, that within 2 years there will be a drumbeat for a soccer-specific stadium in San Diego. It won't happen if they don't have success, because you would need a drumbeat. You would need a lot of people getting really mad. But for a billionaire owner from Egypt, he's going to take a look on his iPad, in the middle of the night watching an LAFC game next October, and he's going to go, "What the hell are we doing? Why are we paying for this?" So, hey, there's nothing you can do about it. And in the other Soccer City version, the MLS team would build their stadium and share it with San Diego State. So the same thing was going to happen either way. There's no way around it. But if you share a football and a soccer team and you have them play on back-to-back nights, it's going to be really bad for the soccer team. If you play a soccer and a football team and you have the football team play on the second night, it's not going to be a very big deal at all. It will not be a problem at all. There might be 1 or 2 divots. But when the big boys are pushing off the cleats there in the muck, tore that place to shreds. Okay, time to take a break. When we come back, it's time for Silly Games. All week, 5 times, we're going to give you the chance to qualify for our end-of-the-month grand prize drawing, a 2-night stay at Wynn or Encore Las Vegas, and 2 tickets to see Awakening, the thrilling spectacle at Wynn Las Vegas, with soaring aerialists, bounding acrobats, high-energy choreography, and comedic moments in the midst of a compelling story where a hero must confront the forces of light and darkness in a quest to save the world. My goodness! World-saving aerialists and acrobats. See it all at awakening.com. Or call in now, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973, because we're looking for a contestant to play Mind the Gap, the game of multi-generational trivia, where you need to answer a trivia question aimed at boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, and Gen Zs. We'll do that when we come back. Annie and Elsten on The Fan. It's not over. It's just starting.
This hour's over.
Almost over. But first, silly games. Time to play today's silly game. Every day on Annie and Elsten, we give you a chance, just like the other shows do, give you a shot to get into the hopper for our end of the month grand prize drawing. And you were telling me last week, Braden, each show is individually giving away this prize. I thought everyone went into the same pool for the same prize. So we're giving away 3 of these trips.
Correct. So we give away 1. The morning show gives away 1, and the afternoon show gives away 1. So currently, we have 2 winners for this month. So if you qualify today, you'll have a 33.333333% chance to win a trip to Vegas if nobody else wins.
Right. This makes me even more motivated to be a good contestant myself.
Correct.
Because we need to defend the honor of those previous winners.
Chad and David.
Right. As opposed to just being, the weak valet, just dropping the velvet rope, letting everybody into the club.
Being like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Give it away, give it away, give it away now.
Right. Yeah, I can't do that.
No.
Can't just give it out for free. You got to earn it. Today, you got to earn it playing the game of Mind the Gap. This is the game of multi-generational trivia where you're going to have to answer 1 question aimed at a millennial, 1 aimed at a Gen Xer, 1 aimed at a boomer, and 1 aimed at Gen Z. Today's opponent comes to us from the South Bay. It's Jamie in San Ysidro. Hello, Jamie. Welcome to Silly Games. How are you?
I'm all right. If you lay an egg today, nobody's going to be upset. I know there's a lot of pressure on you. Don't panic.
Fair enough. Well, Jamie, here's how the game is played today, and we do wish you the best of luck. I'm going to try my darndest, but we do wish you the best of luck. You get to go first, and then we will alternate. We have 4 categories that you have to clear to win the game. The first is Boomer. The second is Gen X. The third, Millennial. The fourth, Gen Z. You can attack them in any order you want. Ask for the category. You can even pick the subcategory. Braden will give you options, things like TV and film, news, slang, etc. And then if you get the question right, boom, you've cleared the category. If you get it wrong, I have the chance to steal, and vice versa. First person to clear all 4 categories is the winner. Normally, you have the opportunity to use Annie as a lifeline. Today, that will be difficult. She is unavailable. But you can ask Braden once if you need a little bit of help. As long as he hasn't read the answer, he'll try and help you out. That's how the game is played. Any questions?
No questions.
All right, Jamie, you get to go first. I'm going to go grab my little scoreboard to keep score. But would you like to start with Boomer, Gen X, Millennial, or Gen Z?
Well, let's go in order. Let's start with Boomer.
All right, we'll start with Boomer then. Is there any particular category you would like? We have TV and film, pop culture, music, headlines, and slang.
Let's go with pop culture.
Pop culture. All right, how about it? Name the products sold at home parties in the 1950s and 60s, allowing women to own their own businesses, socialize with their homemakers, and keep their food fresh.
Oh.
Tupperware.
That's it.
Tupperware is correct.
That's it.
Nice.
Really well done. Really well done. All right.
We're off and running.
Off the board for Jamie. He is 1 down. I'll try and start on my home turf. So let's start with Gen X.
All right. Any specific category you would like?
Nah, just give me something good.
All right. What British leader was nicknamed the Iron Lady?
Margaret Thatcher.
Margaret Thatcher is correct.
That's an easy.
1 and 1.
All
That
right.
was way too easy.
Way too easy. How dare he give me that question? Jamie, Gen X, Millennial, or Gen Z? Where do you want to go?
Well, I don't think I know Gen Z very well. Let's do Millennial.
All right. You want the same category or you want a different one?
Let's try film and TV. Is that
Yeah,
enough?
TV and film.
Do it.
On what soap opera did Kelly Ripa get her start?
Oh, The Young and the Restless?
Steel?
Okay. It's not Days of Our Lives. It's General Hospital.
The correct answer is All My Children.
All My Children.
That was a test answer on one of my broadcasting questions that I
Was it
obviously
really?
don't remember. History of broadcasting, Craig. It's a very It's a lot of TV and film. You would do really well.
I
in
would
that
do
class.
amazing.
You would do amazing in that class.
Just ace it. I'll go Boomer. We're still tied 1-1.
All right. Any specific one? Come on.
No.
You want to live on the edge?
No, I like your choices.
All right. Music for you then. Finish the lyric. Oh, Lord, it's hard to be humble. Blank.
Oh, Lord, it's hard to be humble
Blank.
when you got hips like mine. I have no idea.
Nope.
Jamie
got the
cannot steal because I've already done Boomer.
You got the win one correct. When you're perfect in every way.
When you're perfect in every way.
That
Who
was
sang
the correct
that?
answer. It doesn't say. I have no idea.
Oh, my goodness. All right, back to you, Jamie. You still got 3 categories.
Let's try millennial again.
All right. Millennial again. Why not? You want to keep it the same one?
Oof. Let's do news.
It's a bad mistake. But all right.
Oh,
Too bad.
Yeah, too bad you changed it. So sad. Headlines. In 1992, Jennifer Flowers alleged she had conducted a 12-year extramarital affair with this man.
Oh, yeah, easy.
Jennifer Flowers.
She had
Yep.
an affair with who in 1992?
Bill Clinton.
Bill
That's
Clinton
right.
is correct.
That's right. William Jefferson Clinton.
I actually knew the answer to the TV and film one. So
All right, you've got half of your categories down. I need to keep
I
pace.
did not have
So let's go to Milwaukee.
relations.
Well, yeah, he said he didn't have relations with her either.
You said
Is it
millennial?
2-0 or
Nothing?
2-1?
It's 2-1. Yeah, I had Gen X. So I'm trying to tie you up with millennial. Try to clear my millennial here.
All right.
Stay in the same category.
Which is the
Newsy, news.
Oh, the headlines. Final episode of this show about nothing aired on May 14th, 1998, and drew 76.3 million viewers over a quarter of the United States population.
Just cross it off right now. That's Seinfeld.
That
of
is
course.
Seinfeld. I knew that one too. Good.
They're all in jail.
Try
at the
getting all
end.
the gimmies.
That's
What's
right.
up here?
I know, right? Gen X or Gen Z for you, Jamie? Either the Gens.
Let's go Gen Z.
All right. Any particular category for you?
What are the categories again, Braden?
TV and film, pop culture, music, headlines, and slang.
Let's go slang.
What was meant by the acronym MAGA?
Jeez.
Make America Great Again.
There you go.
Yeah, there it
Got
is.
that one.
There it is. All
We had
right.
a Dwayne The Rock Johnson answer on one of these, too. That was
You're
good.
down to one. Speaking of easy questions, Jamie. Jeez. All right.
Braden felt sorry for me.
I'm not feeling it at all. Let me go, Boomer.
All right, Boomer. What company's repairman was the loneliest guy in town? Maytag is correct.
I still use that joke.
Ay, Dios mío.
Lonely as the Maytag repairman. I will still say that from time to time. All right, Jamie, you have Gen X to win it.
All right, let's give her.
All right,
Let's do. Oh crap! Let's do headlines.
headlines. What was the nickname of David Berkowitz, who murdered 6 people during 1976-77, supposedly on orders from a demon-possessed dog?
Yep.
Oh.
What was this murderer's nickname?
Blank of blank.
SOS.
Yep, that'd be another way to put it. That's another.
Oh, Sam.
Son of Sam. Well done.
Son of Sam, indeed. Jamie, I had that one all queued up. Glad you got it, though.
I know.
You're in. You are in, my friend. You are in the hopper. Stay right there on the phone.
Good
Braden will
game, sir.
Yeah, and to you as well, my friend. Stay right there. Braden will get your information during the break, okay?
Thank you, guys.
All right. There's Jamie. Great job. He is now 1 of 4 qualified for our show prize at the end of the month. You're right, Nate. I had a little bit of heart right there. When we come back, we'll hit reset on the show. Disappointing weekend for the Padres. We'll get right back to it next on The Fan. Welcome back, everybody. Hour number 4 of the show. Annie and Elsten back with you on San Diego's number 1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie joined us for the first half of today's program. She had to miss the second half, but will be right back with us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So Craig Elsten, Braden Soprenet, holding down the fort until then. We go for one more hour. Then it's full on Gwen and Chris. 4 hours with the boys. Tony Gwynn Jr. will be up in Seattle. At least I think so. There's been the occasional time he's stayed home.
Oh, for the first day on the off day and then better the next day. I mean, he could totally do that tomorrow.
He could. He absolutely could.
How long's the flight to
4 hours.
4 hours to Seattle?
Yeah, I've done it many times. To SeaTac International Airport, halfway between Seattle and Tacoma, is the SeaTac Airport. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we'll see Tony walk in. Probably not. Probably he'll be on the machine, but they'll be on for 4 hours, and then Scraby gets his Chronicles, the Scraby Chronicles from 6 to 7 today. Padres are in Seattle tomorrow for 2 games. They don't play 2 games tomorrow. They're in Seattle Tuesday and Wednesday for 1 game each. Those 2 days before an off day to go to San Francisco, and then a 3-game set against the San Francisco Giants. Last weekend, after a delightful 5-1 win on Friday, the Padres dropped a couple that hurt on Saturday and Sunday to the Giants. Saturday, it hurt because Dylan Cease had a 2-0 lead. And once again, Dylan Cease was erratic. He just seems to be an up-and-down pitcher that either gets in a great rut or gets in a bad rut. And right now, he's in a little bit of a bad rut. He seemed to find his way out of it at the end of his outing, where he was striking out everybody in the final inning or 2 of his outing. But the first 4 innings, he gave up 4 runs. He gave up a 3-run homer and generally struggled. Sunday, Joe Musgrove was pitching as well as anyone could possibly pitch. 10 batters, 10 retired, 6 strikeouts, looking like a no-hitter, perfect game kind of day. And then a high fly ball into the crazy high sky, Sunball dropped for a double by Fernando Tatis Jr., and literally 10 pitches later, the score was 6-0 San Francisco. One of the craziest blow-ups I've ever seen.
The gates of hell opened when that ball hit the ground.
I'm telling you. It was wild. Absolutely wild. And what was not wild was Joe Musgrove. He wasn't missing the zone at all. He was piping it down central, and the Giants weren't missing it either. I mean, one pitch he is working on 10 up, 10 down. The next pitch is a 2-run homer way over the bleachers by Matt Chapman. And suddenly it's a game that's, fallen apart. And the thing that really hurt, and we talked about it with Annie on the Deep Dive Hour, was it felt like, call it what you want, the spirit stick, the mojo stick. It felt like something was dropped by San Diego when that ball dropped, and the Giants went crazy. And then at 7-1, the Giants collided on a routine pop fly to second base and let 2 runs score. And it felt like the stick had switched sides back to San Diego's side. They turned 7-1 to 7-6 in a hurry, had the tying run on with fewer than 2 outs, and then Tyler Wade comes in to pinch run, and he gets picked off on, I don't think arguably, but you could make an argument if you want, the worst pickoff of the year. Just the most egregious, unnecessary, jumped off while the reliever was looking at him, making it even easier for him to get picked off situation. That killed the mojo. The mojo went back to San Francisco. Ryan Walker got everyone out from there, and the Giants win 7-6. So as we get to the hunt for October, Braden, this situation is now getting dicey because San Diego, 81-64. Friday's win brought the team to 19 games over 500, got them that 81st victory, had a 1.5 game lead over Arizona in a tough spot playing in Houston, and then you give back 2. So now Arizona is 79-62. They're a half game behind you, but please note the total of 4 fewer games played by Arizona. Now, that's good and bad, right? It's good for Arizona. Anytime you're trailing, you want games in hand. It makes you feel like you're actually ahead. And in a way, the Diamondbacks are ahead. The bad side of that, Braden, is they aren't going to have the off days that the Padres have in the month of September. We can do the math ourselves. The Padres have 4 more off days. The Giants are going to, or the Diamondbacks are going to have a total of 1 off day the rest of the season.
Yeah, there's some pros and cons to that, obviously, and just because that they have extra games to play doesn't mean that they're going to win those games. Doesn't mean they're going to lose those games, guaranteed. So that's kind of an interesting conversation. But the Padres right now, if they mess around, they're quickly going to find out. I mean, they're definitely in mode where they have to continue to win, and they don't have this huge cushion that we had on Thursday when everything seemed like it was good on the round table. I mean, they have to take care of business, and you can't be dropping series. I mean, at the very minimum, they need to be winning every single series. They need to be taking 2 out of 3. If you split in Seattle, that's fine. It's a 2-game series, but you have to win series. That's the only way that you could be, quote, in your own, taking care of business and in control of your own destiny is winning series. I talked about it last week in terms of making up ground. In order to make up ground, you have to view it from a series perspective because the odds of somebody losing X amount of games in a row or winning X amount of games in a row are very slim. So from a series standpoint, that's why trying to catch the Dodgers is impossible now, almost, unless something catastrophically bad happens for LA and the Padres, win out, basically. But from the perspective of the wild card, if you pull up the wild card standings, the San Diego Padres, as we mentioned before, have a 2-game lead on the New York Mets, which means the Padres only have a 2-series lead on the New York Mets. If you want to extend that, you got to win a series, and the Mets have to lose a series. If you want to keep it the same, you got to keep winning series because the Mets are probably going to keep winning series unless the Mets, which they just did, and that's a big reason why they made up so much ground, win a bunch of games in a row. But if you lose series, you're not going to keep pace with the rest of the wild card standings. You're just not. So that whole conversation we had last week, well, if they go 11-11 in their last 22, they'll win 90 games. That should be good enough. The problem is for the Padres is the other teams are playing above the clip that they need to play on in order for that to work out. So you can't be thinking about just kind of splitting everywhere when you have 5 series left. You have to win series, and you have to, you mentioned this before, and I totally agree, you have to sweep the White Sox. You can't have a result other than sweeping the White Sox and expect to be in a good spot when you get to Arizona and Los Angeles. The last thing you want to do is get to Los Angeles and play at Chavez Ravine and absolutely have to win every single one of those games. Right. Or get to Arizona and go, we have to win every single one of these games to stay alive. What happened the last time the Padres won 90 games and didn't make the playoffs? They needed to do that in San Francisco.
That is correct.
And they won the first 2, and then they had their ace at the time of the staff and Matt Latos, and they couldn't get the job done on Sunday. They won 90 games, and they didn't make the playoffs. And so you could sit there and go, well, we won 90 games. It's all great. But if the other teams are playing at a higher pace than you, it doesn't really matter. You can't feel satisfied right now if you're the San Diego Padres. When you had a 3-game lead or picked up a couple games this weekend, you want to feel a little satisfied and maybe split in Seattle or drop 1 series, fine. But right now, they don't have the luxury to drop series anymore. They've blown that cushion that they had.
Okay, absolutely correct. And I want to address something because Josh in the chat was catching up on the show and then came at me, but he came into the chat to challenge me because he heard me each of the last 2 weeks when the Padres they didn't go 500, 4-3, that I said that was absolutely a fine result for that week.
They were treading water that week.
And within context, the first week of that was finishing a stretch of 18 games in 18 days.
Correct.
Right?
Totally agree.
And the week before that was playing the Twins and the Mets, 2 extremely, extremely good teams. And I said that week, the Twins-Mets week, that if they went 4-3, it was great. And the week after that, when they finished this 18-18, I said if they went 4-3, it was completely acceptable. It was a fine result. But what did I say this time last week or Tuesday last week. I said I wanted the Padres to go 8-10 in their next 10 games. And Annie looked at me funny. Do you remember that? She was like,
yeah.
Really? 8-10? You've been saying 500 is okay. I said, hang on. It was okay those 2 weeks, but now it's time to go. It's time to step on the gas pedal.
Clarification, 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Yeah.
Not 8 and 10. 8
No,
out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Okay,
That's what I meant. Win 8 out of 10. Win eight of their next 10 games.
Correct.
They started that by winning the first 2. They had a 3-0 lead with 2 outs in the 9th of the 3rd game. They blew it, and then they proceeded to lose 3 out of 4. So they went 3-3 last week, and that means they can't go 8-2 in this 10-game stretch. They've already dropped 3 games. Obvious, easy math. So now let me repeat another thing. I believe in this team. Losing a series to the Giants doesn't make me not believe in the team. I believe in this team. I think they will win 10, 11, or 12 of their last 18 games because this is a good team. 17 games because this is a good team, and I believe in them, and I believe that they will do the job. But 9-8 gets you to 90 wins. And 9-8 might not be enough to make the playoffs this year. And this is where I go back to the hunt for October. All the time in our rundown, Braden does a great job of putting the actual numbers out there because this is the time of year you have to look at the loss column. You have to look at the loss column because it's games remaining. It becomes literally impossible to catch a team in the loss column. So right now, I have to inform you that the Padres have 64 losses. The Diamondbacks have 62. Okay? So you've lost control of Arizona. You have 3 games against them at the end of the year. But they've got more games than you and fewer losses. So they can catch you all on their own just by winning the games that they have played, that they're going to play that you've already played. Atlanta and New York are both 78 and 65. They only have 1 more loss than the Padres. The Mets and the Braves both have just 1 more loss than San Diego. So the cushion that we built, winning 19 out of 23, has been utilized a little bit, and now it's not gone, but it's almost gone. It's almost gone. You've used a lot of it up. So it's time to get back on the horse. It starts Tuesday in Seattle. This team has been a great road team this year. They have been a dominant road team this year, and they need to be a great road team in each of their last 2 road trips. This one is Seattle, San Francisco. The last one is L.A., Arizona. In between, you host a great Houston team, and you host the White Sox, the worst team in baseball, by 70 miles. But guess what? You have to win them all. You have to win every one of those games. And if you win all 3 games against the White Sox, you got 14 other games. You split those, 10-7, 91 wins. It's a pretty good chance. It's a pretty good chance that you make the playoffs. But any more stumbles, Braden, and you get to a spot where now you have to sweep the White Sox and win 2 out of 3 LA, 2 out of 3 Arizona. You get into that situation, you're getting into some really hot water.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's we're now in magic number time when it comes to all of these teams, and I just updated that on the sheet as well. But you start counting the losses, the same thing as your magic number, where that number goes down. By you winning or teams behind you losing. Padres right now with 17 games to go, their magic number 17 because they got teams right on their ass, which means they're not in a comfortable position where they can have a couple of bad nights off. It's no longer time to have a bad night. I know that happens in baseball and you got to flush it, but as you were mentioning before, and I totally agree, the situation has changed. It's no longer 17 games or 18 games in 18 days. I will give you the benefit of the doubt of having to play that many games in a row, having to play on the East Coast, having to play in a humid area, right, in St. Louis, and trying to grind out wins against good teams. Now you've had a couple of off days mixed in. You played the Tigers, who I know they're red hot, but you can't let that Thursday game get away from you. You played a Giants team that is just limping to the finish line, and that's a team you got to beat up on because, again, you look at the schedule, you got to play them 3 more times. That, aside from them and the White Sox, those are the only teams that you're going to play that are under 500. I had somebody comment on the YouTube stream of my show 2 weeks ago saying Braden's being over ridiculous about how difficult the schedule is. It's really easier than they think. These teams are going to be done by the time the Padres play them. Au contraire, my friend. Houston's still battling off Seattle. They're only 4.5 games up. I know that seems like a healthy lead, but that could vanish in a flash. We just saw the Padres lose their big lead in a flash. The Dodgers are battling for home field advantage. The Diamondbacks are battling for a playoff spot. Seattle is trying to stay in this race as long as possible. And the Giants, I would imagine Bob Melvin would love nothing more than to knock the Padres out of a playoff spot. You're not playing the White Sox every single week to finish out the series, to finish out the season. It's not like St. Louis, who gets to play Colorado and Pittsburgh and the Giants and Toronto and Cincinnati, or even the Cubs that are playing Oakland and Washington and Cincinnati. You got to be playing some teams that are going to be playing in October at the end of the month.
Yeah. So nothing is promised. The race is closer than ever. A really good team is going to miss the playoffs in the National League this year. The tent's not big enough for everybody. And the Mets have to play the Braves. The Mets have to play the Phillies 7 times. But what this weekend reminded me, what the last week reminded me, is that the Padres are seemingly at their most vulnerable when they play the teams they're supposed to beat. When they play those teams that are seemingly a little bit out of it. And then we're watching rookie after rookie whack home runs over the fence against Joe Musgrove in that 4th inning on Sunday. I've said it for weeks, and he has given me a funny look every time, but Braden's starting to get it. I am scared to death of the White Sox. Scared to death. They're going to beat us one of those games.
And if you mess around, for sure.
And if you mess around, they are going to beat us. If you come with the type of not low energy, mid energy, you're going to lose. When this team locks in, they can beat every team in baseball. This team is good enough to beat every team in baseball in a 7-game series, in a 5-game series, in a 3-game series. They can do it. But they can also miss the playoffs with this good team. So it is time to get on the horse this week. I am calling for an absolute minimum of 3-2 this week. And 3-2 is not going to get you out of danger. However, 4-1, 5-0 this week puts you in great shape. So it's business time. It's business time. You don't want to call it a playoff right now? This is how you make the playoffs, is you take care of business right now, down the stretch, last 17 games. Let's get it.
Final push, 17. What do you need, like 16 to win, right? Don't you usually need like 16 games? You need to win 16 games to win the whole thing? Final push. I'm not saying they have to go 16-0, but, I mean, you're going to have to play that many games in a playoff push anyway. Minimum.
That's it. Go get it. And absolutely right, I need money. Go get 1-0 tomorrow. I've said it for months. A lot of folks get mad at me and then come around as time goes on. Because about 6 weeks ago, I said, don't worry about the Dodgers. Put your head down, look up at the last week, and see where you are. Oh, you've given up in the division. Oh. Well, where is it now? Where is it now? You know, it's the way it is. It's the way it is. It's time to get to business now. It's time to get to business. Padres are in great shape to make the playoffs as long as they stand on business. And that's what they need to do starting tomorrow. When we come back, it's the return of Braden's football segment. Week 1 of the NFL, all but done. Still have one game. Do we have 1 or 2 games tonight?
Only one. I think we have 2 next week.
Okay. Oh, that's weird.
Kind of, yeah. Couldn't tell you. Maybe they needed to see Aaron Rodgers with just no distractions.
They probably only have one this week because they had that Friday game.
Oh, yeah,
in
that's
Brazil.
probably what it is. The Friday game. That was a S show.
Yeah, it was. That was hilarious. So, some overreactions to the first week of the National Football League on Braden's football segment. And, we can chat about our beloved Lions roar, Lions roar.
The doubleheader for Monday Night Football is not till week 3.
Do we have another goofy game this week?
Week
Are they
2
playing in
is
Iceland
no.
or
Yeah.
Reykjavik?
No, whatever. I do know that Germany's getting the short end of the stick on this because they get Munich gets the Giants and the Panthers. Have fun. So maybe
Sorry,
we're not
Munich.
sending our best games over to
well-
other countries.
When we send our NFL teams, we don't send our very best. And some of them are great people.
Hey, we send our A teams. Wait a minute. Guess we don't. It is Daniel Jones playing quarterback. He's like a Manchester United C player.
Braden's football segment next on The Fan. Welcome back, everybody. Annie and Elsten here with you. It is Monday. 1:28 is the time. Annie was off starting at 12. She'll be back tomorrow at 10. Braden and I are hanging out. The football season is back, and that means Braden's football segment is back. A chance to look back at the NFL's first week of the season with some bold predictions and wild overreactions and everything else that's such a big part of what makes the NFL so much fun. So let's get to it, my friend.
All right, let's talk about some of the overreactions to NFL Week 1 games, and the overreactions are courtesy of ESPN.com's Dan Graziano. We're going to buy or sell some of these overreactions to Week 1, but we're only going to focus on 3 games, the 3 most important games that led to these overreactions. We'll start with the Steelers and the Falcons. Pittsburgh Steelers won the game without scoring a touchdown. In fact, they're the only team in the AFC North to not score a touchdown in Week 1. They're the only team that has a win right now in the AFC North, Pittsburgh Steelers. Justin Fields got the start because Russell Wilson had a calf injury linger during warm-up, so it was Justin Fields that got the start after he lost a training camp competition to fellow Steelers teammate, newcomer Russell Wilson. The Steelers won the game 18-10 thanks to 6 Chris Boswell field goals. Fields was 17 for 23, 156 yards, rushed 14 times for 57 yards, and most importantly, did not turn the ball over. It was a conservative game plan by Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, who 8 months ago was the Falcons' coach and brought with him a healthy respect for the playmakers on his old team's defense and a strong faith in his new team's offense. On this day, though, it was good enough. It remains to be seen whether Wilson's calf will feel good enough this week to allow him to play the Steelers' Week 2 game against one of his former teams in Denver, but the Steelers are 1-0 with Fields as the starter. Buy or sell, Justin Fields will keep the Steelers' starting quarterback job all season.
I will sell that.
I'm selling it too,
but not by a ton.
Same.
I could see Russell Wilson start a game or two and then lose the job.
I think eventually they're going to have to put Russell Wilson in unless Justin Fields plays like Tom Brady, and they're just like, we can't put Bledsoe back in, even though it's a different situation. But it's kind of the same. But I feel like they've invested enough in Russell Wilson where they got to give him at least a chance in some of these games. But I agree with you. I think Russell Wilson probably comes back. Now, if the question was, does Justin Fields will be the Steelers starting quarterback by the end of the year, I would say I would buy that.
Yeah.
But all season, I'm selling.
Yeah, I'm exactly with you right now. I'm sure Wilson will start at least one game.
On the flip side of Pittsburgh's touchdown-free victory was a very disappointing loss for the Falcons. Team most people seem to be picking to win the division. Atlanta, it's loaded. They are loaded with skill position talent on offense, had a strong offensive line, and the thought was that adding Kirk Cousins in free agency would help unlock the potential of the offense. Heck, the Falcons even made 2 widely praised acquisitions late in the offseason to bolster their defense with veterans Justin Simmons and Matthew Judon. No team in the NFC South has won 10 regular season games since the Tom Brady Buccaneers did it in 2021. So there's a justified perception that the division is winnable. But in a home stadium packed with visiting fans, where have we seen that? Even saw that yesterday somewhere else. Cousins and the Falcons offense laid a Week 1 egg. Atlanta led this game 10-9 at half, but Cousins was a meager 3 for 8 for 19 yards, a pick, a lost fumble after halftime. As a result, the Falcons had only 51 second-half yards. Buy or sell, someone other than the Falcons will win the NFC South. Remember, it's Carolina, it's New Orleans, it's Tampa, and it's Atlanta.
Sell. Falcons are going to win because otherwise one of those super mediocre teams is taking over. It's definitely not the Panthers, who got smoked 47-10. I think this was the classic stumble out of the gate, and then they're going to figure it out, and they'll win 10 games. 10 games will win the South.
But 9 games will win the South.
Probably.
Although Tampa didn't look that bad. They looked all right. I know they played Washington, and the Saints destroyed Carolina. Saints didn't look that bad either, but competition. We'll see how it plays out. I don't want to say buy because it'll hurt Adam Klug's feelings.
I hear you.
But Adam Klug might be buying it. He's very pessimistic
Well,
about his
that's the
Atlanta
thing.
Falcons.
You know, you always hurt the ones you love. He loves the Falcons, so he's going to hurt them.
Let's talk about the game from Thursday of last week. It was pretty good. Kansas City and Baltimore.
Yeah,
2024 season began Thursday night with two-time defending champion Kansas City holding on to beat the Ravens by a toenail, literally. The game showcased the Chiefs' offense that looks a lot faster, a lot smoother, a lot more confident than it did as it muddled through the 2023 regular season. Rookie wideout Xavier Worthy was electrifying, scored 2 touchdowns. Second-year wideout Rashee Rice went over 100 yards. Running back Isaiah Pacheco looked spry and found the end zone. Travis Kelce, still an impact player, and while Hollywood Brown missed the game because of an injury, he will be there eventually and only helps. Mahomes has a lot more places and a lot more fun places he can go with the ball than he did a year ago. Consider that 188 of his 291 passing yards came after the catch Thursday. And if the Kansas City Chiefs defense is half as good as it was last season, the first three-peat in Super Bowl history, it's on the table. This year's Kansas City Chiefs offense will be the best one that Patrick Mahomes has ever had by herself.
Well, I mean, I think you presented a reasonable case. I'm lean by on this one. It seems like that could be, because I know last year he had nothing for receivers, but I just wonder is one of those past Tyreek Hill offenses statistically at a place that it would be hard for Kansas City to catch? I don't know the answer to that, but I feel like they had some great offenses when they had the cheetah there.
They did. They had weapons of the cheetah. Dan Graziano put together a good case there, and I agree with him. The couple things, there's question marks with Hollywood Brown, and can he stay healthy? Xavier Worthy is very small. Can he keep up the numbers? I don't know if that's sustainable. So, and we'll see what Rashee Rice got in his second year. I think on paper they have the ability to do so, but I'm not. So I'm close to buying it, but I think it's an overreaction, so I'm going to sell.
That's fair. I mean, it's 1 week. Everything's an overreaction.
Yeah, it's Monday morning quarterback, baby. That's what the best part about the NFL is.
That's right.
Dallas Cowboys beat the Browns on Sunday. Cowboys began Sunday by signing quarterback Dak Prescott to a massive new contract extension just hours before their season was set to kick off. Made Prescott the highest paid player in NFL history. It includes $231 million guaranteed. This ended the, quote, "why won't they just sign Dak" saga 2 weeks after the Cowboys ended the "why won't they just sign CeeDee Lamb" saga and got their season underway without the uncertainty that involves to come with the unsettled contract situations. Then, of course, there's Micah Parsons. He's the star of the defense. Went out, and he celebrated Prescott's new deal by devouring Deshaun Watson and the Browns' offense. He had a sack, 8 pressures, 4 tackles in the 33-17 win. Parsons is beginning his 4th year, which means he became eligible for an extension this offseason for the first time. Cowboys picked up his 5th-year option for 2025, and with Lamb and Prescott deals more pressing, they kind of moved Parsons' extension to the back burner. Dallas has the option for 2025 and franchise tags available for 2026 and 7 if it were to come to that, so it has time with Parsons. But Cowboys will have to work around the Prescott-Lamb deals for cap purposes whenever they do sign Parsons. Buy or sell, the Cowboys should sign Micah Parsons now to avoid falling into their same old trap. I am buying that 100% on the fact that they should have signed Micah first. He is more valuable to a franchise than a receiver. I don't know if he's more valuable than a quarterback. I think eventually you could find a quarterback better than Dak. But the problem is you're going to be in quarterback hell for years if you didn't sign Dak Prescott. So I'm buying this. Micah, you cannot let Micah Parsons go for what he brings to your defense, which ultimately leads you potentially to a Super Bowl more times than not than a receiver does.
Hey, good case. I accept. Boom. Where's the gavel? Buy.
You're buying. You're agreeing.
Buy.
Last one for you
Not my
involves
money.
the Cleveland Browns and their quarterback. Browns did a lot to try to improve their offense around Watson this offseason. They brought in a new OC in Ken Dorsey. They traded for Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver weapon. They revamped their entire offensive philosophy with the idea of putting Watson in a better position to succeed. And they believe that him coming into the season healthy and with everything they've put around him would allow him to finally deliver on the promise they saw in him when they traded for him and gave him a fully guaranteed $230 million contract with all of the other baggage that he had. But Sunday, Watson looked awful. He was 24 for 45, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, pair of picks, finished 0 for 9 on passes, thrown 15 or more yards downfield, averages 2.6 air yards per pass completion, lowest mark of his career. Granted, they did have Micah Parsons in a Cowboys defense that's really hard to deal with, but it was an ugly start for the season for which the Cleveland Browns had a ton of hope. Buy or sell, Jameis Winston will be the Browns starting quarterback by Halloween.
By Halloween? So that would be what,
sooner?
game 8? Game 6? Game 7?
You got 4 games, yeah, roughly.
Sell,
I'm
but not by a
that
lot.
too.
Not by a
They're
lot.
giving him a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they took on a lot of PR problems trading for him. I mean, they went all in on this guy. Jameis Winston's a quarterback on the Dia de los Muertos.
I like it. Just had to push back a little further.
Just a little bit further.
Just a little further.
The Halloween weekend is going to just it's over for him.
It's done. It's done.
That's a look at the NFL recap from a fun NFL Sunday. We'll get into more games later as the season progresses, but those are the ones most glaring. Dan Graziano's got the biggest overreactions every week, senior NFL national reporter for ESPN. If you liked a lot of what that was, he's got more on ESPN.com.
I like it, and I like that we'll be doing it and continuing week by week. I would just note that lousy team up the road won, apparently. Didn't watch any of that, but I heard they won. And, he wasn't any good, but Caleb Williams is 1-0.
He was awful.
He was really not good.
Worse than I thought he was going to be. I thought
good.
he was going to be a lot better. He outplayed Will Levis, though. I mean, Will Levis just was like,
really
you know
bad.
what?
Yeah.
Here you go. Here you go. Here's the victory. I'll go cash my. Never mind.
Mayo man.
That's why you don't
failed.
put mayo in your coffee, dude. You look like that.
Exactly.
Special teams were good. Hey, I was surprised. The Bears' defense was good. I mean, if the Bears' defense and special teams play like that, you don't need Caleb Williams to dominate.
Right.
They'll be just fine.
No, that's it. That's exactly right. They won in spite of him yesterday instead of because of him, but if they could win a couple games because of him, maybe they've got a good team after all. We'll still keep our eye, a corner eye on the Bears.
That first game for rookie quarterbacks is always awful. He wasn't very good, and they got a win out of it, so it works out.
Thought Goff was pretty awful yesterday for my beloved Lions.
He wasn't the greatest, no?
He was sketch. I think would be the best way to put it. It's a little bit sketch.
If Gardner Minshew wasn't a terrible quarterback, the C words would be 0-1.
Yeah.
He was rough, too.
Don't like that team. Don't like that team. Not a very good team. Lions, pretty
They played that at the TCU game on Saturday.
good. Did you? Don't like that call.
That the
Not a very
the
good call.
LT slide is back, and TCU unveiled it at the end of the third quarter on the video board. It's such an old video that most people are like, "What is this? Why did LT do this?" And you're just like, "Nah, man, that's old. That is old school." But they had him recreate the LT slide. So older LT is doing the LT slide, and it's got a TCU remix to it. I gotta find a copy of it because people on TCU Twitter were just losing their minds. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we having the greatest TCU Horned Frog do this? And I'm just going like, it's before your time. You wouldn't understand.
All right, it's time for Ask Us Anything. That's our final segment of the show. It's your chance to call in. We're going to open up the lines right now, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Hang on, let me turn the key. Open. Lines are open, 833-288-0973.
I don't like that call. Not a very good call.
We hope you have a very good call. You have 8 minutes to make that very good call. And if you call between now and 1:50, we will put you on the air. The only thing that you need to come prepared is with a question for Braden or myself or both of us. That's it. Ask us anything. Doesn't have to be about sports even. Ask us anything next on The Fan. Welcome back, everybody. Just about 6 minutes left in the show. If you want to give us a ring, you can. 833-288-0973. You got a couple of minutes left to call the show. A lot of great NFL chat in the chat on YouTube. Don't forget, we are a YouTube program in addition to being a podcast, in addition to being a live show on the radio on 97.3 FM on KWFM radio. You can find us on the YouTube channel on the YouTube page. You can just go to YouTube. Sound like an old man.
The YouTube channel.
You can go to the YouTube channel where the YouTube people do the YouTube things.
We stream live on Facebook.
Yeah. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitch, which is just wild to me whenever someone chats on Twitch. I'm like,
sometimes we get like the spam bots on Twitch.
Yes.
And all of a sudden we have like 500,000 people tuned in. We're like,
take over channel. Let's go.
I was like, dude, I have no idea what that is. I must be really out of touch.
Yeah,
or it's super lame.
It's super lame. And if you were on Twitch, you'd be annoyed. But seeing as we're not actually, we're just streaming there. We're not actually on there. It's completely irrelevant to us. Nonetheless, 97.3 The Fan is the page on YouTube that you subscribe to for free to be notified for all of our shows, and then you can watch and you can enjoy interacting with the program on the chat, real-time interactions with the hosts, and that's where we are. Okay, we've got at least one online question, so let's go ahead and hit the bumper. Starting with Jake's question in the chat, window or aisle seat?
I used to be window all the time, but to me it's like, if I fly within 3 hours, window. If it's more than that, aisle. I don't like to disturb people if I have to go to the bathroom. I can just get up and go. I'll monitor, I can go.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about, because then when you're the window person, you have to go to the bathroom. Not only do you have to convince them to go, you got to go faster than somebody else that needs to use the bathroom.
Right.
And the worst thing to do is like be on a plane and really have to go to the bathroom right as you start to land, and then you're stuck, and who knows how long that might possibly take. So if it's longer than 3 hours, aisle. If it's 3 hours or less, window.
Gosh, I think you're exactly right. I think that's probably the exact right thought process you have to go through. I love to get that window seat because you've got that inch and a half more space, just to lean to your right.
Right.
Put a little pillow to your right. You've got that little bit of extra space. I feel like I tend to get the aisle seat a ton, and I do have the ability to doze off in a plane, and then you get like kicked by the
carts. You got to worry about the cart.
Yeah.
You just feel like you're in the way because you just get like a dirty look when their cart goes by. It's like, sir, can you please move? I'm like, sorry, I didn't see you. Coming up and down, up and down, up and down.
Exactly. So I think you nailed it. I think it's window for convenience. I would throw in if it's either early morning or late, and I really feel like I need to sleep.
Then I'm going to sleep and not have to go to the bathroom because I'll be knocked out.
Exactly. Then it's window all the way, and my preference would be window in general. But I think on a longer flight where you're going to have to use the John, it is definitely super annoying to be like, hey, sorry again. Do you mind if I can we just go ahead and let me out again? Oh, thank you so much. You're a legend. That whole thing.
You're a legend. So if I fly to when I fly to Texas, window's cool. When I fly to the East Coast, we're aisle all day, every day.
Too late to call. 833-288-0973.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, it's all
you had your
done for
opportunity. You missed it.
And he'll be back tomorrow. I'm excited to introduce you guys to Brian Grubb. He hosts he writes the Type Click Type newsletter. He used to host TV Avalanche, great podcast with Alan Sepinwall. And he will be along for some pop culture fun tomorrow. So a little swim. Originally I had him booked for last Friday, and then I went, wait, Melanie's on, Brian's on. They both love the pop culture world. It's going to be too much. Braden's going to be like, too much, man. Too much. So we spread them out. Brian on Tuesday. Can't wait for that. Coming up tomorrow, we'll preview Padres Mariners. I will act irrationally excited about defeating Seattle and put on Vetter Cup war paint. and we will take care of everything. And we'll be back with Annie and with 4 full hours of show. Don't go anywhere, though.
I'll be on tonight.
America's Finest Football Show.
Tonight at 10 o'clock after Monday Night Football.
Look out.
I won't be on next week because we have a Padre game. So who knows when that would start. So, but after that, we're each and every Monday night, 10 o'clock after Monday Night Football. They can hear on the fan. You can hear the Niners and Jets tonight on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Stay tuned. We got high school and college football talk after that. America's Finest Football Show. And if you missed that, because it is late, you can catch it on the podcast. It re-airs on YouTube on Thursdays. It's a YouTube show branded on Thursdays. You can go find the archive on the page.
Lil Shrooms in the chat asks, why don't we cover the Chargers more?
Because nobody cares about them.
And they're in L.A., Lil Shrooms.
Listen to LA radio for it.
They'll cover them up there. Actually, they won't.
They won't, because nobody cares.
For Braden, for Annie and Absentia, I'm Craig. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 10. Take care. Have a great day.